Welcome everyone to the Nassau County Board of Commissioners meeting for 6 p.m. November 27th, 2023. I'd like to ask everyone to please silence your cell phones and stand with me for the invocation and the pledge. Dear most gracious and heavenly Father, we come to you today and thank you for the many blessings you bestow upon us on a daily basis. As the Prince of Peace, we humbly ask for your guidance over our meeting and that you show us unity and productivity for the residents we serve. We ask that you direct our thoughts, words, actions, and decisions through your divine wisdom. Purify our thoughts so that each of us here will enter this meeting desiring the good of others and the pleasure of your precious name. Thank you for America's military members, all of our nation's first responders, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice and duty to our great country. I ask that you bless their families, their loved ones, and the American values we fight to defend on a daily basis. And it's in Jesus' name we ask these things. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner McCullough.
Present.
Commissioner Gray.
Here.
Commissioner Huffman.
Here.
Commissioner Martin.
Here.
And Chair Farmer.
Here. We'll move us into public comment for non-agenda items. Comments can only be for items under the authority of the Board of County Commissioners. Time limit is 3 minutes. And on the front end of this, I'm going to go ahead and kindly ask and remind everyone that we will appreciate it if you would not participate in outbursts during the public hearings tonight. Cheering, clapping, shouting will not be tolerated. Please be considerate of others and my board. Would anyone like to speak on non-agenda items? I've got some cards that I'll bring you up here in just a second, Ms. Osborne. But if seeing none, call you up, Ms. Osborne. Welcome.
Good evening, Jackie Osborne, Post Office Box 16796, Fernandina Beach, Florida. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak to you this evening. Hoping you all had a great Thanksgiving with lots of turkey and all the fixes that go along with it. I see you have a very packed agenda tonight, so my comments and information will be very brief. At this time, the Nassau County Animal Shelter has 72 dogs in its kennels and 90 cats in its cattery. As you know, kitten season is for the most part over. The spring and summer, we were busy with sometimes well over 100 cats and kittens in the cattery. Now, most of the cats are they're between kittens and cats, and they're called cattens at this point in time. I just want to remind those here and those watching, the Nassau County Animal Services is there to help find dogs and cats homes. Please consider one of these babies when looking for a new pet. Is this being out there?
Yes, ma'am.
Should be.
This is Molly. Molly was found at the Holly Point boat ramp, and she is currently part of an animal cruelty investigation. This is the type of information, the type of animals that those people see out there way too frequently. I just want y'all to be sure that you understand and know that our animal control officers, our people that work in the kennel and the cattery are very dedicated. And as it breaks my heart, and I'm sure it impacts you as well, it breaks theirs as well. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jackie, and thank you for the hard work and dedication that you show Nassau County Animal Services. There's a whole group of people there, and while we've got such a captive audience, if you want to volunteer somewhere in the county, just get a hold of Ms. Jackie. She'll be glad to put you in touch with our fine folks at Nassau County Animal Services. That will see anyone else care to speak on non-agenda items. Seeing none, then we'll move us into public comment for agenda items. Except for quasi-judicial items, any member of the public can address any item on the agenda now or wait until the matter is addressed. Time limit's 3 minutes. Do I see anyone here that would like to speak on agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll move us into expansion items or deletions to the agenda. Mr. Pope.
I have none tonight, sir. Thank you.
All right, Ms. May.
I will have one expansion item I need to add to the county attorney's items. This is in regards to settlement of a case on O'Neill Scott Road. It's been out there since 2020, and I'm happy to give you that update at the time, but I need to expand the agenda for this item.
Sure. So we'll take that into the backside of new business, correct?
Yes, you can put it at county attorney's item. if
Okay,
you'd like,
perfect. You got you.
With a motion.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move to add Ms. May's expansion item to county attorney's business.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman.
Yes.
And Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. That will move us into resolutions. Tab A, approve a proclamation expressing support for the Gula Geechee Cultural Community Trust, Inc.'s grant application to the State of Florida Division of Historical Resources for the Abandoned African American Cemeteries Grant, and authorize the chairman to sign a letter of support as needed for their grant application. And I know someone here is here to accept that. I will meet you at the podium. This is a proclamation of the Nassau County Board of County Commissioners expressing support for the Gula Geechee Cultural Community Trust, Inc.'s grant application to the State of Florida's Division of Historical Resources for the Abandoned African American Cemeteries Grant. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners has received a request for a letter of support from the Gula Geechee Cultural Community Trust, Inc., a 501c3 nonprofit organization, in favor of its application to the Florida Department of State's Division of Historical Resources Historic Preservation Grants Program, Abandoned African American Cemeteries Grant Program, and whereas the GGCCT's proposed project entitled Restoring Crandall Cemetery, Life, Culture, and Community is a cemetery protection project for the purposes of repairing, restoring, and maintaining the cemetery at Crandall that has been inactive since the 1960s. And whereas the proposed project will include planning to guide the long-term preservation of the cemetery, including installing monuments, signage, and beautification in a manner that is culturally representative and approved by the Division of Historic Resources, consistent with the Secretary of Interior's standards for historic preservation. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners recognizes the importance of historic preservation. However, the Crandall Cemetery is located on privately owned property and is not under the jurisdiction of the county. The board supports the GGCCT's grant application and their efforts to preserve the Crandall Cemetery, contingent upon receipt of a letter of concurrence from the current property owner. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners, the chairman is authorized to sign a letter of support for the GGCCT's grant application duly adopted this 27th day of November, 2023, signed by myself, Clint A. Farmer, the chairman, John A. Crawford, the clerk, and Denise May, the county attorney. And we thank you for the fine work that you're doing and that you have done for the residents of Nassau County.
And thank you.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you all for the letter of support. I don't have any further comments. I just appreciate it. Thank you.
Would you like to get a picture here? Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve tab A.
Have a motion, do I see a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve tab A.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, a second from Commissioner Martin.
Call the vote.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
That moves us to consent items. If any board member wishes to move a consent item to new business, please do so now.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. I figured it's coming.
no surprise. I'd like to move tab B, C, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K from the consent agenda to new business. And I believe Assistant County Manager Ironman will be able to cover quite a few of those that talk about not to exceed $2 million in a 3-year term pretty quickly.
Just to be sure that I heard that correctly, you said B, C, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K. Is that correct?
Yes.
Got it.
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent items with the exception of tab B, C, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, second from Commissioner Gray.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. That will move us into new business. We will begin with tab B, approve and authorize the chairman to sign the deletion form, from inventory form for the 2019 John Deere motor grader with the buyback guarantee discount in the amount of $99,500 and authorize the county manager to sign a requisition to Dobbs Equipment LLC for $286,055 for the purchase of a 2023 John Deere 620G motor grader. And just for, purposes of clarity, John Deere has an E on the end of it. So he was hitting us with some, mistakes a minute ago. I want to make sure that we saw that one.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Iron.
So with this, pretty straightforward is, our graders, our mowers, all of those components are very essential to the operations of our roads and doing maintenance out in the field. Obviously, we have a current unit of 2019. We're requesting the ability to trade that in, remove it from the inventory, and then move forward with a new purchase so that we have better longevity and better maintenance and operation capacity in the field.
Got any questions for Mr. Ironman on tab B?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve tab B.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve tab B.
Can I get the second again, please?
Hupman?
Thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. It moves us to tab C, approve and authorize the chairman to sign the Community-Oriented Policing Services Grant and associated budget transfer in the amount of $500,000 and authorize staff to accept the grant electronically. Mr. Ironman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. As we all know, this county has been growing greatly in terms of population numbers, and to meet the demand for public safety, we've used the SAFER grants for some of the fire personnel. This is the COPS grant for the sheriff deputies, and what it allows us to do is essentially receive a grant for $500,000 to offset that much cost for 4 deputies for the first 3 years of their service. There is still an additional cost that we'll have. It's estimated over $700,000, but at least we're saving $500,000 that we would have had to incur just to meet those new demands.
Sure, any questions for Mr. Ironman in regards to tab C?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Through the chair to Mr. Assistant County Manager. So those additional costs you talk about, those are not necessarily a match. For
So-
this grant, was there an additional match, or are you talking about costs that we would have had anyways?
So as we've been experiencing growth, we would have had essentially all $1.2 million of cost to meet the demand and fund those new 4 positions. What the grant is doing is saving us $500,000 so that they're covering that much of those costs.
Thank you.
Any further questions for tab C?
None, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Gray.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve tab C.
I have a motion. Do I see a second?
Second. Go ahead.
Motion and a second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gray, a second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Move us to tab E, approve and authorize chairman to sign contract number CM3557 with Microsoft Corporation for Microsoft licensing renewal in the amount of $353,173.08 for a 3-year period. Mr. Ironman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As stated, this contract is for $353,000, a little over that, for a 3-year period. So annualized, that's $117,000. This is really for our licensing agreements to make sure that we still have all of the operations within our Microsoft products. And since we are dependent upon those, we appreciate this contract.
Any questions for Mr. Ironman on tab E?
Mr. Ironman, that's at $353,000. It's coming out of each department budget to equal that total sum.
It's broken out by different licenses. We do try to consolidate some of those costs through our IT budget, and so we'll bring them through that, but then they'll spread them out to different departments. So
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I make a motion to approve tab E.
I have a motion to approve. Do I see a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve tab E.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hutman, second from Commissioner Martin.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
And Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Moves us to tab F, approve and authorize the chairman to sign contract number CM 3501 with Pond and Company, Inc. for continuing contract for professional architectural and engineering services not to exceed $2 million for a 3-year period. Mr. Iron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I may make a comment, so with regards to F, G, H, I, J, and K, they're all very similar. And so what we've been doing is being proactive in our contracts. And so what we've seen in a lot of our capital projects is if we go out for a bid, every time we have a project, it adds an extensive amount of time to that timeline. And so these 6 contracts are putting on-call services or on-call contracts in place so that when we have a capital project and when we have budget, we can move forward with those in a timely manner. And so it'll save us a lot, and you will see these numbers of $2 million over 3 years. That is conditional upon the budget being in place and for that project. So I guess the easiest way to explain it is it's a capacity, and once you separately approve the budget for a project, that's how we move forward with them through a separate work authorization on each item.
Any questions for Mr. Ironman on tab F, G, H, I, J, and K, being that they're all similar?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a question for Mr. Ironman, but I do for County Attorney. Can I make a motion to approve all of these tabs
Yes,
at
sir.
once?
And if I may comment before you make that motion, just to comment that these are services that are provided by contractors outside of our staff. Right? And the idea there is that there's a significant cost savings by not hiring additional people constantly and putting them on staff when these are very specialized services that get one-off requests for service, right?
Yes.
Correct, yep. Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
And, yeah, and I'd like to just add to it that, no one gets more frustrated with the speed of government than all of us sitting back here. But you have to follow statutory guidelines, and it's unfortunate that sometimes, when you don't get the right number of bidders, it has to go back out again, and you start from scratch. And so people, unless you're on the inside, you really don't get to see that, the wheels in motion. But this will speed up our capital projects substantially. And I think it's, it'll move in the right direction. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Martin, you say you want to make a
Mr.
motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve tabs F, G, K, I, J, and K. I'm sorry, F, G, H, I, J, and K.
All right, have a motion. Do I see a second?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner McCullough.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutman.
Yes.
Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I know I sound like a broken record when I say this, but, I'm the guy that the clerks know, Mr. Ironman knows, that if anything's going to be moved from the consent agenda to new business, it's probably me. But even though it takes up a few more minutes of the meeting, I think the reason I do this is not because I object to anything, it's because I think it warrants the explanation that our county manager and our assistant county manager give us on these big ticket items, and that way folks understand that a lot of thought and a lot of work goes into this. We don't just approve these things willy-nilly.
Right. No problem.
If you didn't do it, somebody else would.
Well, I try to give other people an opportunity, but
Well, it's just a testament to who this board is, the clarity is, I think, is appreciated by a large number of the people we represent. If there's nothing further, we'll move into new business. Any member of the public may address any item under new business at this time. Time limit is 3 minutes each. Is there anyone who wishes to address any item under new business? Seeing none. Tab O, approve the local housing assistance plan with the new strategy added and technical revisions. I think that's a typo. There's no U there. That's going to be housing assistance plan is what it's going to be. So LHAP, yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Commissioner Gray.
I'd like to make a motion to approve tab O.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gray, if I may.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't see you, Mr. Huffman.
I didn't hit the button, I apologize. Before you make that motion, I would like to thank the members of the Essential Housing Advisory Committee who worked with the staff for the past 12 months to review our strategies and actually add 2 additional strategies for this year's housing assistance plan. So my thanks to the staff, my thanks to the EHAC, which are members of our community that serve on that board to come up with this year's plan. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. So I have a motion on the floor to approve. Do I see a second?
I'd second that.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve tab O.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gray, a second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman.
Yes.
And Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Moves us to tab P, authorize chairman to sign a financial action form for usage of impact fees for Fire Station 30. Mr. Ironman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me for a second. All right. So as the county collects impact fees, we do. Thank you, sir.
I can step in and take this one.
That's all right.
So as development occurs in Nassau County, as they make building permit, development permits come in, an impact fee is collected. Those impact fees are then utilized to offset impacts to infrastructure, whether it's roads, parks, there's an education impact fee. And so in this particular case, we're expanding the capacities in the Yulee area, we're relocating and expanding Station 30. And so for the excess capacity that's being created, we can allocate limited impact fees to facilitate it. And so with that, this would be the justification form that allows us to move forward. We're very excited about getting that fire station on the west side of the railroad tracks. And so we're going to move in a timely manner to get that taken care of.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Pope in regards to tab P? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Certainly.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, let Mr. Huffman go ahead.
Thank you. All right,
Okay.
thank you. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve tab P.
I have a motion. Do I see a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to approve tab P.
Yes, sir.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, a second from Commissioner Gray.
Call a vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Tab Q, approve and authorize the chairman to sign contract CM 3521 with the State of Florida Department of Health for the operation of the Nassau County Department of Health for contract year 23-24. Mr. Ironman, will you speak to that?
Let me try it this time.
That's okay.
Thank you for the.
It's all right.
So, part of our relationship with the Florida Department of Health is we provide annual funding through this agreement. The agreement before you is approximately, or a little less than $1.2 million. It's in line with the prior year, and this will solidify our ongoing relationship with them to provide services this year.
Got any questions for Mr. Ironman in regard to tab O? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved to approve tab Q.
I got a motion to approve tab Q. Do I see a second?
Second that motion?
All right, I have a motion and a second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, second from Commissioner McCullough.
Call a vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough.
Yes.
And Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Tab R, consider resolution delegating authority to the managing director of the Amelia Island Tourist Development Council to recommend on behalf of the AITDC contracts for marketing expenditures of $100,000 or less and consistent with the county's procurement policy. Further delegate authority to the county manager to execute contracts for expenditures of $100,000 or less upon the recommendation of the AITDC managing director. Mr. Ironman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As this board and has been working collaboratively with the AITDC to really kind of streamline the operations, see how we can be responsive to their marketing needs, one of the items we've done recently is increase the recommendation authority of Mr. Langley up to $50,000. As the county's procurement policy was recently updated, we wanted to bring this back in line, and that will recommend authority up to $100,000 for recommendations for Mr. Langley.
All right, any questions for Mr. Ironman in regards to tab R?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve tab R.
A motion, I see a second.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve tab R.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin and a second from Commissioner Hupman.
And call the vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Tab S, consider a resolution delegating authority to the county manager to execute all agreements, contracts, licensing agreements, amendments, and related documents, including any applications to acquire the necessary insurance in order to implement the Nassau County Bicentennial Celebration.
Yes, sir. Through the chair, I appreciate the opportunity. The bicentennial, to say that it is challenging to execute the logistics would be an understatement. Just in the first event, I believe we're working with 6 different individual property owners, let alone kind of the subordinate entities associated with them. And so with that, there are a number of contracts, agreements that have to be signed, and if it would be the pleasure of the board, delegate that authority to me and allow me to execute in accordance with your directives and within line of the budget that's been approved for the overall program, that would make things move a lot smoother and a lot faster.
Any questions for Mr. Ironman on tab S?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve tab S.
A motion approved, do I see a second?
So moved.
A motion and a second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner McCullough.
And call the vote.
Commissioner Hupman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Our coffin's moved around here to me. That moves us to legislative public hearings. Following matters under consideration are legislative matters, and the non-quasi judicial procedures will be utilized for the following. County Attorney to read the procedures.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The following items are legislative and non-quasi judicial. Those are tabs T and U. These procedures are in place to give all who wish to speak for or against an item an opportunity to do so. Those wishing to speak in favor of or against the item being considered shall have 3 minutes to address the board. All statements should be addressed to the board and address only the item under consideration. Speakers should not engage in personal attacks on other speakers, staff, or board members. Speakers must begin by stating their name and address for the record. Speakers shall not repeat or restate the same information as previous speakers. Anyone presenting repetitious statements or statements that do not address the item under consideration will be asked to stop their presentation. Sharing or transferring the time is not allowed. The clerk will control the time allocated. Again, that is 3 minutes. Any speaker that has documents as part of their presentation should present them to the deputy clerks. They will become part of the permanent record. They will not be returned. This meeting is being recorded. Please no applause or outburst or talking, as it does distort the recording. The board will then close the public hearing and discuss the item under consideration. They may ask questions of speakers or staff. The board will then deliberate and vote on the item before them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved?
A motion, do I see a second?
Second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
A motion and a second to open the public hearing.
And this is going to be for tab T.
Tab T, correct.
Thank you. I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, a second from Commissioner McCullough.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Hupman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. This time, staff presentation.
Yes, sir. Your Development Service Director, Caleb Hurst, is going to present this item.
Welcome, Mr. Hurst.
All right, let's see. Hi, good evening, Chair Farmer, Board. Tonight I'm going to present to you about the amendment to Chapter 18, Motor Vehicles. My name is Caleb Hurst, Development Services Director. So I have a brief presentation tonight. I'll go over the 2 main changes. So our request is to consider the amendment to Chapter 18, Motor Vehicles, modifying provisions for golf carts. The summary of the changes, one is to align with Florida statutes requirements that was amended by Chapter 2023-67. The new language now prohibits persons under 18 to operate a golf cart unless they possess a valid learner's driver's license or valid driver's license. It also prohibits persons over 18 to operate a golf cart without a valid form of government-issued ID. And then secondly, it'll be to clarify between county roadways and privately maintained roadways, and the provisions to establish golf carts for each designation or for each roadway type, including fee alignments with adopted BOCC schedule and petition requirements. So to expand on that a little further, we have updated the definition section of the ordinance. You'll see in the documents, county roads have been clarified to more align with what we have in our roadway and drainage standards. So our county road definition now clarifies that the roadway must have been dedicated or deeded to and accepted by Nassau County for maintenance. And then it goes on to further explain in the limitations section that golf carts may be operated on designated county roads only. And then it clarifies that golf cart operation on privately maintained roadways shall be determined by the private HOA or other maintaining entity. So if there's any further questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Hurst? Is there anyone here that would care to speak in favor of or against tab T? If so, please come to the podium. Your time limit is 3 minutes. Seeing none.
Mr. Chairman, I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Motion and a second to close the public hearing.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call vote.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Any board discussion? None, and I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make the following motion on tab T. Based on the review of applicable testimony and evidence provided, my motion is to adopt the ordinance.
I have a motion to adopt. Do I see a second?
Second.
A motion and a second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, a second from Commissioner Martin.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Tab U, consider DSAP 23-002, an ordinance of the Nassau County Board of County Commissioners adopting the detailed specific area plan. Number 2, development order for the East Nassau Community Planning Area established under Chapter 163 Florida statutes, providing for findings of facts and conclusions of law, providing for development conditions, providing for legislative findings, providing for an effective date. And this is in District 3. So I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing for tab U.
So moved?
I have a motion, do I see a second? A motion and a second to open the public hearing for tab U.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, second from Commissioner Gray.
Let me call the vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Have a staff presentation. Welcome, Ms. Back.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman, board members. I'm going to provide you a brief orientation of the applicant's request before the applicant's agent, Lindsay Haga, provides additional details on what they're requesting tonight. So the detailed specific area plan, or DSAP, before you tonight, seeking your approval for the development order. The Planning and Zoning Board has recommended approval of this request. The application before you tonight has been the subject of numerous meetings and emails and is a far superior application compared to the one initially submitted in 2021. A great number of details have been negotiated, and the county and the applicant are now in agreement on the proposed development order. I'll refer to the staff report, which also states that we've met with the applicant to refine the application and ensure multiple high-level priorities for open spaces, recreational opportunities, the provision of schools, aesthetics, and safety and transportation design, among others, would be met. We've met to negotiate and work through issues with the applicant multiple times over a period of over 2 years, since the initial kickoff date for the project design phase was held on August 21st of 2021, with the first application submitted on October 26th of 2021. So just to run through a few slides with the details of the request, and then I'll be available for any questions, of course. So the request is to establish a detailed specific area plan, or DSAP, within the Greater East Nassau Community Planning Area, or ENCPA. The applicant is Wes Hinton of Radiant Places and Properties, and the owner is Radiant LLC. As I mentioned tonight, we have Lindsay Haga, the agent, with England, Timms, and Miller. You can see here before you the entire ENCP area. This is comprised of 24,000 acres with 24,000 dwelling units and 11 million square feet of non-residential uses. And what we'll be referring to tonight is within this ENCPA that is shown before you with a future land use map 6. You can see in the legend the various areas within the ENCPA that include the St. Mary's River Greenway land use, the Conservation Habitat Network, uplands and wetlands, the Employment Center down there towards State Road 200 in purple, the Regional Center in red, which includes 2 transit-oriented development, or TOD, areas that you can see along US 17, running northward towards I-95. We've got the 3 tiers of residential land uses and the Village Center as well. Moving on to this slide, it shows that, what we're speaking of tonight, the DSAP 23-002 application, which is just over 14,879 acres and includes just under 15,000 dwelling units with 1.25 million square feet of non-residential uses and over 7,000 acres of conservation habitat. I'm not going to read out all of these, but as you can see, these are the acreages and the residential unit maximums for each of those land use subcategories that I was just referring to. This shows the minimum non-residential square footage. For the Village Center, it's 700,000 square feet. Resort development, 400,000 square feet. And then between the 3 tiers of residential, you have 150,000 square feet. And then for a total of the 1.25 million. And with the acreage being over 14,000 acres and over 14,000 residential units. So I'll be referring to the staff report to address the development principles by which staff has reviewed this application. And in response to item A, staff felt that the unique physical and visual characteristics within the DSAP-2 are proposed to be protected while also enabling primarily passive recreational opportunities through a variety of methods, including, like I mentioned, the Conservation Habitat Network, the Green Ribbon Overlay, and the St. Mary's Greenway. Those are both required to be open to the public, and there are terms set forth in the development order that ensure that. For cultural resources, a Phase 1 cultural resources survey will be submitted with each PDP application, which would happen after the approval this evening. Cemeteries will be preserved on site, will not be disturbed, and access will be provided per state law. Also, Lofton Creek and McQueen's Swamp are protected through their inclusion in that conservation habitat network. Lower densities of proposed residential development are located within the Tier 3 of the residential land use subcategory, and that is adjacent to those Lofton Creek and McQueen's Swamp environmentally sensitive portions of the conservation habitat network. With regards to item B before you, the DSAP is proposed to contain not less than 533.5 developable acres of regional and community parkland. That would consist of 7 regional and community park sites with land for up to 10 boat ramps. 2 of the park sites will be dedicated to the county within 180 days of approval. That's in accordance with the development order, and the remaining sites would be conveyed at established intervals. It also proposes not less than 152.43 acres of neighborhood parkland in accordance with the county's park regulations. There's also a system of trails or pathways proposed, including a mobility trail network that would serve as a circulation for pedestrians, bicycles, and potentially golf carts. As to item C, the highest residential densities, which is 2,331 dwelling units over 429 acres. That's proposed within 6 distinct village center land use subcategory areas, with one of the village centers including a portion of a TOD, or transit-oriented development. Moving forward to item D, there is a system of trails or pathways, like I had mentioned, that would include a mobility trail network to serve as circulation for the pedestrians, bicycles, and potentially golf carts. Had mentioned the TOD, and there is also potential for connecting the east and west sides of US 17 for access to a future commuter rail station on the west side of US 17. Additionally, bus transit could be accommodated along Wildlife Parkway, which would terminate at the TOD overlay area. As to item E, the urban mobility and urban non-mobility cross-sections proposed include bike lanes. Utility infrastructure is proposed within the frontage and boulevard zones, and there are cross-sections within the application that you can see that show those. Like I mentioned, there's provision for pedestrians, bicycles, and golf carts, and the TOD and bus transit was mentioned as well. As to item F, the adjacent DSAP 1, which is known as Wildlight, that's to the south and west of this DSAP, includes the central planning area. That contains an employment area with 7.1 million square feet of non-residential uses. So that is positioned to provide housing along with ancillary non-residential uses to support the employment area in DSAP 1. DSAP 2 also provides for employment opportunities within the 6 proposed village center areas. And potential employment supportive uses could include retail sales, personal services, business and professional offices, government offices, and other similar uses. So moving along to item G, water conservation strategies are proposed to be incorporated into common areas of residential and non-residential development at the PDP stage. Innovative, energy-efficient building construction and development practices are required to be identified at the PDP stage. As to H, the uplands, wetlands, blackwater creeks, and wildlife corridors within this DSAP are proposed to be protected while also enabling primarily passive recreational opportunities through a variety of methods, including, like I mentioned, the Conservation Habitat Network, the Green Ribbon Overlay, and the St. Mary's Greenway. The last one to address is item I, and in reference to that, the ENCPA Mobility Fund would be supported by contributions from this proposed development for the future construction of this interchange, which is consistent with the long-range transportation plan. So just want to state that DSAP 2 and the entire ENCPA will be transformative and impactful for Nassau County. As you all are aware, change is coming to the county in terms of population growth, but with thoughtful planning, this master plan development has a potential to provide a positive quality of life for future county residents. In conclusion, staff finds that the proposed DSAP 2 substantively conforms with the comprehensive plan, the ENCPA sector plan, the Code of Ordinances, including Chapter 29 Subdivision and Development Review, and the Land Development Code. Based on these findings, staff recommends approval of application DSAP 23-002. And I do want to note for the commission that regional concept plans have been designed. That's Exhibit K in the agenda background, and I have those to pass out to you. They already are with the clerk in the background material. Otherwise, I'm available for any questions. I think that.
Is there anyone here would care to speak in favor of or against tab U? If so, please come to the podium. Your time limit is 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Beck.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Chance.
Good evening.
Through the chair, if I may, this is the applicant. If you wish to give him more than 3 minutes, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, that,
No.
as the applicant, Mr. Hinton, you can take as much time as you like.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Elizabeth, for that, and good evening, Commissioners. My name is Wes Hinton. Address is 1 Rainier Way, Yulee, Florida, 32097, and I'm a Vice President of Real Estate Development for the applicant, Radiant LLC. Just want to thank you for the opportunity to present DSAP 2 to you tonight. This is the next step in implementing this East Nassau Community Planning Area that was approved all the way back in 2011. And as Ms. Back spoke, we've spent more than 2.5 years working on the details with staff and stakeholders across the county. Believe it or not, this is the 17th public meeting when you add up public hearings, community open houses, and workshops. And to say that we're proud of the final product that's in front of you tonight would be an understatement, just because of the wide breadth of of input and the collective effort across so many different disciplines, across so many different stakeholder and civic groups across the county. So we just want to take a few minutes to walk you through some of the details and to build onto staff's presentation. So in addition to myself, we kind of have our full planning team here as well. So if there's technical questions that come up during our presentation, they're here as a resource for you as well. You've seen this slide before. We talked about when DSAP 1 was originally approved, it came with this list of goals, right, that were really formatted around catalyzing investment into Nassau County and really building a complementary mix of commercial, residential, and civic uses, providing for a higher standard of community development and helping beautify Nassau County's front door. And we're just really excited about the progress made towards those goals in a short amount of time. But through DSAP 2, it opens up a whole new list of goals. Big ones including, working with staff and stakeholders to site civic facilities like roads and parks and schools and fire stations and utility sites. By conserving more than 7,000 acres of conservation land through the Conservation Habitat Network at no cost to the public. By providing more than 8 miles of access along the St. Mary's River over time, which I think is going to be a pretty spectacular aspect to this project over time, and really bringing forward this really critical parallel roadway network to SR 200 that's will hopefully ease traffic and provide important evacuation corridors as we go. So these are the highlights. I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay Haga with England, Timms and Miller to walk through some of the remaining details.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Haga.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For the record, Lindsay Haga, Planning Manager, shareholder with England, Timms and Miller. That's 14775 Old St. Augustine Road. And thank you, Wes, for that introduction and just getting us started. This slide is our framework. It's context for those over a decade ago when the sector plan was approved in the county's comprehensive plan, setting forth our master plan, the bucket of entitlements, and also a set of policies by which we follow to pull down those entitlements and present to you a development order today. What this slide is just, again, intended to show for us how the permitting process works. We've been entitled within the sector plan. We have that existing detailed specific area plan, or DSAP, that you see we mentioned in 3 areas. And then within that, we work with your staff for preliminary development plans. That's how we see that precursor to our site engineering plans and seeing this built to life here within Wildlight Town Center. The area in this tan color, this is what we're talking about today, and that represents nearly 15,000 acres of the existing sector plan for us of 24,000 acres. So some of your achievements that you've accomplished, and then again with our community of where we've been, just technical items of when we filed our applications, the kind of pit stop and review that we've done with staff, working in your development order. There's kind of 2 components, our glossy application that tells us what we're doing, giving our level of service, and then translating that into your development order with specific conditions that we have to follow and the public can follow along for what we're doing to make sure that we're hitting those elements within our plan. We've had community meetings most recently, one before our Planning and Zoning Board meeting early in November, and then one just before the Thanksgiving holidays to prep us again and give us the opportunity to connect with folks. And some of those questions that we had for those that attended our meetings were excitement about some of the Green Ribbon Trail, when that's coming on, when are we seeing the improvements, and really curiosity about master planning. What is being proposed and when will it be delivered? So we shared some of the same storyboards at that meeting you'll see in this presentation. This is our adopted future land use map. That's that pit stop that we've done, your achievement in June of this year, where we kind of moved Wildlight Parkway, or what you see is that parallel roadway to State Road 200, moving that connection closer to the interchange at US 17, and then being context sensitive on Chester Road, shifting that connection down for having a detailed plan for that area that's existing along Chester and when you get to Rose's Bluff. This is our future land use map that we bring to life with our development order. One of the boards that we try to simplify a multi-page development order condition is into these buckets of public improvements and benefits that you see here, generally grouped into public education, parks, roadways, trails, and our fire and law enforcement. But we'd like to align it with the strategic goals that you already had identified, those pillars of your plan, those big movements that you have, to ensure and just kind of create a crosswalk, if you will, between what you have as goals as your county with the elements that we have within our development order. Kind of quantified over to the side, this lets you know and sees before the first resident appears within our DSAP 2 area, there's a delivery of school sites, delivery of park sites, and the construction of roadways and trails. And that's important as we regard to timing. And at the end, when we get to build out, we'll walk you through all of those criteria of park sites, school sites, miles of roadways, trails, and those civic use sites. This is what it looks like when it all comes together, kind of using some iconography to show where we're putting in trailheads, where we have Wildlife Parkway, where our school sites, our park sites, and all those have been negotiated out, to Ms. Back's point, with staff over a series of meetings, with your school district representatives over a series of meetings, and vetted in through our community meetings. So then what does that look like? Just beginning with our mobility network, again, this is where we have Wildlife Parkway, and that's an important roadway connection. It's been planned within your series of transportation maps and the comprehensive plan, and what this development order does is address for us the phasing of that roadway, both in a geographic sense and a timing sense, so that it's brought online before we have the impact that we have from the residents that would build within DSAP 2. It's also important to note, we worked with your staff, that this roadway will be context sensitive. You have built within your development order a series of cross sections that are really design based depending on the land use that you see on either side of the roadway. That was really keen to your staff. It's an important element that gets to a quality of life that we'd like to see within the area. Now, this is a black and white copy of the map that you see is the actual attachment to your development order. So we thought it would be important that you have a colorized version of it, kind of glamorized where this is, but then this is how we walk through what these improvements would be for Wildlife Parkway. We're tying into Chester Road. The county has a project now to widen Chester right there at Page's Dairy. We'll tie into that specific capital improvement. We'll build into our roadway plan, building in these segments as development progresses, and that roadway will be completed before we're issued in for our CO. So again, the timing of that, the advancement of public infrastructure, not behind the delivery of homes. This is geographic phasing, so you'll see this is kind of faded out in this area. That's our first kind of area of development you'll see where it matches the pattern of growth. But then the next logical choice for where we will see development come in is along US 17. And what that means, that gets us to that first connection, improving our access out to along Crandall, out to St. Mary's, where we have our first boat ramp park and one of our other park sites that are located out within this area. Along with this improvement would be an improvement to US 17, widening US 17 to the interchange. These are high-capacity improvements that you see. And along with it, we call that missing segment that you saw highlighted here that would connect us. And ultimately, that build-out, Wildlife Parkway, will be a 4-lane divided roadway. At build-out, you'll see we continue out that we have the connection and extension of the widening to our what we're calling the County Road 108 connector that brings us internal into the site, and then our central connector as we complete out the development program. And an important reference to know that the building horizon for our DSAP is over a 30-year building horizon that we would have, and then the timing of development and those improvements. So the next, moving on, if we've talked about mobility roadways, another movement of mobility then would be trails. But something that's been accentuated and worked with your staff is the green ribbon overlay and the additional trails. So again, we see this bar of development of when trails would be delivered as development progresses, but it's also this connection. Wes mentioned along State Road, along St. Mary's River, that's 8 miles of connection, but we're adding in an additional 5 miles when you move from the connection in our Chester Road area all the way to US 17, and that'll be activated with our first preliminary plan of development. So what does that look like? This gives us this collage and an imagination of some of the actual vistas that you can see along the areas of the green ribbon overlay, that greater area, and then along the bluffs, as well as some of the improvements of how we would imagine the path itself, the trail would be completed and constructed within certain areas. As you see the T1, 2, 3 kind of just numbered in sequence moving along the trail, this represents trailheads where you will have parking much similar to that you see if you've ever been out to Big Tablet Island. You kind of have that pull off the road. It's shell-based, but you've got 10 or so parking spaces that you can have so that folks, if you live without or within DSAP 2, you have a sense of arrival where you can be to get onto the trail that you didn't arrive by bike or by foot. This, again, is what that looks like in attachment to your development order. You see that we have the green ribbon trail. This is going along this area, along the buff, and then you also see the mobility trail system that's found along the roadway network. There are conditions within the cross-sections for what that looks like if we have bicycle on one side, a minimum of 10 foot, and then a minimum of 6. If those convert to golf cart, we've worked with your engineering staff to make those larger. So all of that has been planned in. What this map does not show, but it gives us a condition of development, is then as pods come in or parcels come in for development, you'll have additional off-mobility network trails, right? As you move in, that'll have for that connection. You can imagine those connection points being made. One of the elements, since we were working, when we worked with the comprehensive plan amendment and through our public, was really bringing forward that public access component, right? We do want to hit home how important that is for our team and what it is for the public to meet for the green ribbon overlay. And this sets forth the spatial minimum requirements, right? So we'll be an average of 100 feet wide, a minimum of 50 feet, and that open to public access from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., 365 days a year. Now, we have worked with your staff to create notification procedures for when it may be closed portions of it. Say, for example, we're going to have a foot race, or there's some other event, or closed for maintenance, and that notification would be made so the public is aware, as you may experience when you've gone to any state park, how that could occur as well. So I was really keen that there's limitations on that, and we create that openness for public access. And again, not just limited to when sunrise to sunset, but so you can have different experiences after evening time. They have access to the trail at night. Recreation and open space, this is another component of what it means to create a high-quality master plan. We've already discussed those. This appears as 7 regional community and park sites totaling 533 acres. This delivery system that you see is charted here, but then bulleted so that we can know where this would be, is the delivery of 87 acres at Pages Dairy Park. That's adjacent to our Yulee Sports Complex now. The boat ramp park is 10 acres. It has been site planned, working with the handout that you've seen and with your staff, that would handle 10 boat lanes, so the acreage meets for your laneage requirements that you would have for your boat. And then within 180 days of our first PDP, a third park site that would be dedicated that delivery to the county. Overall, we'll have an additional 152 acres of neighborhood parks. So that's in addition to these regional and community parks that you'll see brought within each of the neighborhoods developed within the DSAP. This map brings to life, highlighted in the green, bordered by yellow, where those park locations would be, and moving us into, this is what it looks like, the hatched patterns on your black and white map. But just to pop for you, those first 3 sites that are happening within 180 days of approval of this DSAP, and then 180 days within that first preliminary development plan, which again, we anticipate being over in this corner. So timing, the acreage, location, and timing delivery of those park sites were very important in the review with your staff. Public schools, again, you've seen through the compilation of the map on where that would be delivered, a total of 5 school sites. Within the first 90 days of DSAP approval, we have the first 2 sites dedicated. I'll show you on the map. It's important to note your school board did approve that development order condition, very specific conditions for the delivery of those school sites, how that will occur, and then also the provision of utilities and roadway access to those school sites. And then they would connect and develop from that point, but delivery would be brought to the edges of those school sites. So look, at this area, you see in the purple, the school site locations, the 2 that would be delivered within that first 180 days periods that we see located here. It makes sense. It's located off of US 17. That advances school planning for the school district. They're able to get to their school sites in advance and then work on the delivery of bringing in additional school sites to meet for their students. The last element to talk about on our public benefit would be fire rescue and law enforcement. Again, that's 3 fire station sites, a minimum of 4 acres each. You can also pair that with law enforcement substations as you do. And on the map, I'll show you generally where they're highlighted here in red, why they're skewed to the western side. You do have an existing fire station located off of Chester Road now, and then we provide the location of that based on a 5-mile coverage and service area by road miles. So that's why you see these locations here, to provide for the entire DSAP 2 area to be covered by the locations of these fire station sites. So in summary, we find, in addition with your staff's recommendation, finding it consistent with your comprehensive plan, very specific to your sector plan policies that you have for us, and your PZB recommended approval for you of this DSAP 2 application and development order. That was a lot of information to take. Hopefully the graphics condensed a lot of the detailed information for the development order. I'm available if you have any questions, and anybody on our team is here as well.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of or against the presentation? Come forward, state your name, thank you. Time limit's 3 minutes.
My name is Pam Branson. I live at 95577 Karen Walk. And I was just concerned with this presentation. It shows Pages Dairy Road and Chester Road as just being a roundabout. And there's already a lot of traffic issues right there, especially if there's anything going on 200 and traffic goes around there. I think that area would be better benefited by a light at that intersection, especially if we're going to have all this additional traffic from this development in that area.
So that's an engineering question. Mr. Pope?
Yes, sir, through the chair. There will be a signalization placed at Chester and Pages Dairy at that intersection. The roundabout that was referenced will be further north at the Heron Isle Parkway, and so there will be a large infrastructure project that you all see commencing probably within the next 6 months that'll expand Chester and completely recreate the intersection at Pages Dairy. And then it'll make the stub out, and this is something that's pretty interesting, make the stub out for Pages Dairy to actually extend over to Black Rock Road in the future. And so we're with you, we agree. It'll be a completely different environment in 24 months from now, that's for sure.
Well, from what she showed, it looked like it was just going to be a roundabout, and it's like, I don't think that's going to work.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, thank you. Is there anyone else that would care to speak? Come on up and state your name and address. Thank you.
My name's Larry Dial. I live at 77332 Crandall Road. Kind of had two questions on the map. I don't see Crandall on there. I was wondering if the road will still be maintained and if there's like an estimate when this might be built around Crandall.
So I can answer part of that.
Yes, sir.
So eventually, Crandall Road will be abandoned, but it will not be closed until the other roads are created to provide access. The abandonment of Crandall Road would be a decision of the Board of County Commissioners at a future date. We have, as part of the development order, negotiated that Crandall Road will remain open and access to the boat ramp will be available within 180 days to all the public. And so in addition to that, and I'm not asking the council to give any legal advice, but legally, we can't close off access to your property. And so.
Yeah, that's my next question, yeah.
Yes, sir. Absolutely not. We wouldn't do that to any of you, especially in this type of situation. In terms of timing, I can't give you an answer to that. I have to defer to the applicant.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Anyone else? Come on up. Well.
Thank you very much. My name is Donald Kirk. I live at 86569 Hill Valley Avenue in Yulee, and it is on the northeast corner of Yulee Hills. And according to some of the charts I've seen, I'm going to be able to walk out my back door and go to a town center. And I'm just trying to find out if that's really going to be and how long it's going to be. I'm 77 years old, so if it's 30 years from now, I don't care. But if it's within the next few years, then am I going to be able to just walk out my back door and go to McDonald's or not? I'm just trying to get an idea of exactly when northeast corner of Yulee Hills, the road's going to come and be developed. If it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 5 minutes from now, or whatever.
I'll have to defer to the applicant in terms of timing on what their development schedule is. I would assume that it's going to be partially market-based, but I will defer to the applicant.
Sure. And then we'll give the applicant opportunity to come up and circle back to some of this here in a minute, but thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else here to speak in favor of or against tab U? Well.
My name is Diane Blanton. My address is 85638 Aileen Road, Yulee, Florida.
I've lived here in Nassau County since 1971, and I'm appalled at all the development that we've got going on. In the original plan for wildlife, we were told they were going to have mini farms. I come from a background of raising 2 children that were very active in 4-H and showing horses. We're losing that here in Nassau County. Everything wants to be 2 or 3 houses per acre and making it city life. And that's not why most of us moved to Nassau County and why we call Nassau County home. So I don't know, maybe they need to think about mini farms, 5-10 acre mini farms, so that families can have animals, chickens, cow, a horse for their children. So I don't know if that's something that was originally in the works and got taken out, but just my thought.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else care to speak in favor of or against tab U? Please come to the podium. You have 3 minutes. All right. Looks like I got one more. Come on up. Welcome.
I'm Jeannie Manterfield, and I live at 708 North 15th Street, Fernandina Beach. And after listening to the presentation, which was quite good, I had a few questions that I would like to see in an additional presentation or answered somehow, one would be to show the houses in the drawings drawn to scale. So, you know, we saw the land and this and that, but we didn't see exactly where the houses would be and how they would look compared to everything else there. The other is traffic on 200, which already exceeds the ability of the roads to handle it many times. Another thing is what happens to the wildlife that lives in that area. Well, we can kind of imagine, I guess. And I'd like to see on those maps where the wetlands are, because we know there are quite a few there. And then I want to know, where will these tens of thousands of people go to the beach? And I suspect we all know that. And how, I can't read my writing. Okay, I think that's all I can read, so thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Well, anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay.
I didn't know if the applicant wanted to come back.
Well, he's still, even if
Okay.
he can still talk.
Yeah, he
If we-
can.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Hampton.
If you'd like to go ahead before we close the public hearing.
Commissioner, just wanted to respond to some of those comments. Regarding timing of things, as Mr. Pope stated, a lot of that is market-based, depending on where and when things occur. Happy to talk individually to property owners to better understand their situation and where they are after we continue to move forward. But again, access isn't cut off to anybody who's currently accessing via public right of way. Regarding the mini farm idea, that's actually part of the Tier 3 land use. So that Tier 3 residential land use is a little over 1,800 acres of the old 15,000 and is assigned a max of 466 units. So agreeing this kind of mix of complementary uses, right, from higher density to lower density is important in creating community. So that is captured in that as well. Regarding conservation, again, this is of this 14,000, about 47% is being conserved perpetually. About 2,000 acres of that 7,000 are uplands, that provide both upland and wetland habitat. And happy to go back and show maps regarding locations of wetlands and those things in the overall plan as well. So unless there's anything else, I'll stand by for the questions.
For Mr. Hinton? Of the board? Okay. All right.
All right, now, Mr. Chairman, I would move to close the public comment.
All right.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, motion and a second to close the public hearing for tab U.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, second from Commissioner Gray.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Board discussion, you guys, any discussion for tab U?
I do.
Okay.
I apologize, I clicked request to
It's
speak,
all right.
Mr. Farmer.
It's all right. Just give me my tips.
I wanted to, we've sat up here, and I know I've been through, just in the 1 year of election, I mean, how many hours we've sat through. I think the public, they said 2011, there's been a misconception, and this was something that I faced a lot on the campaign trail, that, this huge development is coming, and, who's going to pay for this? Who's going to pay for what? And I think that I would like to, express my gratitude to it was 2 hours of work on this, because you think, okay, for the first time ever, we truly have a development where we have those school sites. And I'm saying this as an educator, as a taxpayer, as a parent in Nassau County, we have those delegated school sites. There is clear communication about the parks. We're not left in this negotiation la-la land for who's doing what park. And I'm just, as a commissioner and as a lifelong Nassau County resident, I'm appreciative of the staff's work for 2 years on this project, and of Radiant's work on this project, because when you look at that 24,000 acres and 7,000 of it is conservation and wildlife, those are huge numbers compared to other developments that I drive through every day. I very rarely drive through developments where almost a third of the plan or the neighborhood is conserved. You go through a lot of neighborhoods in Nassau County, and it is home, 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 and no conservation. And so I'm grateful for staff, and I'm grateful for the project. This is a good community partnership that's going to move forward, so thank you.
Anyone else on the board?
Comment.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it's been a long time in the making, master plan unit development. The addition of 10 boat ramps here for our Nassau County citizens, the green ribbon trails and parkways, conservation land, commend staff for all the good work they've done on it, and commend the applicant on having all the public meetings at FSCJ, storyboards, everything out for the public, for everybody to come out and get involved and being transparent. So I just want to make those comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. And if there's no more further board discussion or questions, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir. If I don't see any further board discussion, we'll entertain a motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based upon the review of the evidence and testimony received, I find that the application is consistent with the comprehensive plan, future land use policy FL.13.01A through I, and therefore my motion is to approve DSAP 23-002.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve tab U.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gray, a second from Commissioner Martin.
Call the vote.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. Tabs V and W are quasi-judicial hearings. County Attorney will read the procedures.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These are quasi-judicial hearings, the procedures, copies of which can be found near the entry to chambers. These are for tabs V, to consider R23-008, the rezoning of approximately 1.66 acres located on the north side of State Road 200 between Brady Point Road and Pine Grove Place from open rural OR to commercial general CG. Application filed by Calypso Commercial Holdings LLC owner and Elizabeth Moore, agent, District 1. As for tab W, to consider R22-013, the rezoning of approximately 206.16 acres at the terminus of Hendricks Road with additional access off Richards Drive, Karen Walk, and Catalina Drive from open rural OR to residential single-family 2, RS2, application filed by Patriot Ridge LLP owner Greg Matavino, agent, District 2. Quasi-judicial hearings by state and case law are different than regular hearings A quasi-judicial hearing is less formal than a court hearing, but similar in its procedure and evidence matters. Applicants have the burden of demonstrating through competent and substantial evidence that his or her application is consistent with the following requirements. As for tab V, future land use policies FL.01.02C, FL.08.06A through G, Land Development Code Section 5.02C and D, and rezoning application criteria 12A through N. As for tab W, future land use policies FL.01.02B, FL.08.04, FL.08.06A through G, and Land Development Code Section 5.02C and D, and rezoning application criteria 12A through N. Those opposed must also demonstrate with competent and substantial evidence that the application does not meet those requirements. General objections without specific evidence does not constitute substantial competent evidence. The applicant is entitled to be represented by counsel. If any applicant desires a continuance to obtain counsel, please come forward to make that request at this time. Seeing no one, the hearing procedures will be as follows. Staff will be sworn in and describe the applicant's request. They will have 10 minutes. The applicant may waive their presentation and rely on staff comments. If the applicant does waive their presentation, they retain the right to rebut any testimony against. Do any of the applicants wish to waive their application? If so, please come to the podium to state that for the record. Thank you.
Good evening, Elizabeth Moore, Sodal and Ingram, 1617 San Marco Boulevard in Jacksonville. On behalf of the applicant, this is for tab V. I do waive my presentation rights. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Craig Mattavino, 12443 San Jose Boulevard, Jacksonville, the last tab W, and I waive my rights and will rely on staff's report. Thank you.
Thank you both. Again, they do retain their right to rebut any evidence brought against their applications. Public participants for or against the application will be sworn in. They will have 3 minutes each to provide testimony and present evidence to the board. Extensions of time can only be granted through the chair. Sharing or transferring of time is not allowed. Public participants presenting evidence for or against will address the board at the podium. Any documents or photographs must be submitted to the deputy clerk. They will not be returned as they become a part of the permanent record. As a quasi-judicial hearing, large numbers of individuals for or against an item are not considered. The applicant or their representative may then cross-examine anyone presenting evidence. The applicant will have a maximum of 10 minutes for any rebuttal to be provided as to any evidence. Staff will have 5 minutes to provide final comments. The board will then close the public hearing and discuss the application. You may ask questions of applicants, staff, or witnesses for or against. Any motion of the board should include whether the board member finds competent, substantial evidence in the record and/or testimony received to support your decision to approve or deny the agenda item. Again, the meeting is being recorded. Please, no applause, outbursts, or talking, as this does distort the recording. The strict rules of evidence does not apply, but with the assistance of the county attorney, you may exclude evidence that is not relevant to the code criteria as stated above. If anyone has questions as to these procedures, please ask them at this time. Seeing none, Mr. Chair, you may continue.
Well, thank you, Ms. May. This time, I'll entertain a motion to open the floor to public discussion for tab V.
So moved. Second?
I have a motion and a second to open the floor.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gray, a second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Excuse me. Move us into ex parte disclosure, includes emails, letters, and any other form of communication. Disclosure should include who the communication was with and the substance of the communication. Commissioner McCullough.
Yes, sir. I have received multiple calls, emails, and texts all on my county device, Mr. Farmer.
All right. Commissioner Gray.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've received multiple phone calls, texts, emails, all on my county device and I did receive a voicemail for tab V, which I did not reply on my county device.
All right. Commissioner Hutton.
I got a email on tab V from the applicant, and on tab W, I received multiple emails phone conversations, met with people in person, and met with the applicant out at the site as well.
All right, Commissioner Martin.
Likewise, I had an email on tab V from the applicant's attorney, and I also had multiple emails, and everything's on my county device, and a phone call from the applicant on tab W. And if I may, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but through the chair to the county attorney, would this be the appropriate time to address a news leader article?
That's probably in your board deliberations.
Okay, all right.
And,
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
And I'm the same way. I had some emails and a couple of phone calls, but they are all preserved on my county device. Okay. Madam Clerk, can you please identify the documents submitted into the record?
Application R23-008, staff report 5 pages, draft ordinance 4 pages, application for rezoning 20 pages, planning and zoning board motion summary 1 page, and staff PowerPoint presentation 10 pages.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the documents into the record for tab V.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the documents.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, second from Commissioner Martin.
Call vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Move this to staff presentation for tab V. Welcome.
Do you swear or affirm testimony in this matter is true, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and department.
Josh Macbeth, Senior Planner, Nassau County Planning. Thank you, Chairman Farmer and Commissioners. So this is tab V. It's a rezoning request, R23-008. It's to consider rezoning for approximately 1.66 acres from open rural to commercial general. Applicant and owners, Calypso Commercial Holdings, agent Elizabeth Moore, and this is in Commission District 1. The location, land use, and zoning maps, we are located on the north side of SR 200 between Brady Point Road and Pine Grove Place. The land use is to remain the same. You can see along here, SR 200, we have that commercial land use projected all along this corridor. And the subject property is part of the remaining open rural properties that are trying to infill back to commercial general. So with this application, the zoning is proposed to change from open rural to commercial general, which is consistent with that land use. Article 16 per the Land Development Code, Commercial General CG, permitted uses include uses found in the Commercial Neighborhood Zoning District, retail outlets, hobby and gift shops, service establishments, poultry and fish markets, hotels and motels, restaurants, fraternal organizations, assisted living, childcare facilities, adult daycare centers. Conditional uses found in CG zoning district include drive-in restaurants, theaters, auto service stations and repair garages, auto sale lots, private and non-public schools, establishments or facilities selling alcoholic beverages for on-site and off-site consumption, and permitted uses in CI and plant nurseries. And it does meet the minimum lot requirements. And so this consistency is found, or the consistency for the rezoning criteria for LDC section 502C and D is found in your staff report. This is verbatim how it's found, but we're going to go into an abbreviated version of that. So the future land use and comprehensive plan. So as noted previously, commercial general is consistent with the underlying and surrounding future land use map designation of commercial. The commercial general is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which includes policies for the protection and expansion of job-generating land uses. In relation to adjacent zoning districts, the commercial general is consistent with the development patterns along SR 200, which includes a mix of commercial uses of varying intensities. Existing uses in the immediate vicinity include commercial services, a church, a medical office, and single-family houses. In terms of area plans, overlay districts, or county plans and programs, commercial general is consistent with the SR 200 A1A corridor master plan, which identifies the property as a transect 4.5, which is one of the higher transects. It's known as the urban corridor zone. Commercial general is also consistent with the Nassau County's interim strategic plan, and this rezoning protects existing industrial, commercial, and mixed-use lands from being converted to residential uses. For urban sprawl, this is a plan, per that land use plan for future commercial growth, commercial on all sides, both north and south side of 200. The development may encourage further infill of the remaining commercially designated properties. There was a property just east that doesn't meet the lot requirements for commercial general, but it's still open rural. Public infrastructure and facilities, so non-residential uses would be applicable to commercial general, so no impact on schools and parks. JEA operated water and sewer are available to the site. The site is currently served by private well and septic, and we have access off of an arterial roadway, SR 200. Any traffic impacts or improvements will be determined at the time of site plan review. Have there been any substantive requirements of the code that have been changed in relation to this property? So all new development will be reviewed for consistency with code requirements, including Article 35, SR 200 A1A Access Management Overlay District, which includes codes related to signage, frontage requirements, design requirements. For criteria G, adverse impacts on neighboring lands. So there is an open rural zone residential lot, or several lots that are separated by a rail line to the north. There are non-conforming single-family residences to the west, or one single-family residence, and an undeveloped property to the east. Minimal adverse impacts are anticipated. Proper buffers between uses will be evaluated during development review stage. Are there any adverse impacts or environmental, historical, or cultural significant lands in relation to this property? So there's no known environmentally sensitive lands or areas of historical or cultural significance on the site. The site is, however, in a flood zone AE. Present zoning suitability or unsuitability, so the property can be developed under open rural for agricultural and non-residential uses, including wholesale plant nurseries, boarding stables, and fruit farms. The land use and development conditions, there have been no substantial changes to land use or development conditions relevant to this property. Public policies in favor of the rezoning, the Strategic Plan Initiative 1 to promote, protect, and facilitate land uses that can support economic development and revenue-generating enterprises. The fiscally and environmentally sustainable development pattern, this is one of those criteria that applies to larger areas that can sustain characteristics of a mixed-use development, but not be applicable. The environmental impacts, so development shall meet environmental and drainage standards set forth by St. Johns River Water Management District, Department of Environmental Protection, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And compact development form, this is another criteria that applies to larger areas that can sustain characteristics of a mixed-use development. Conclusion recommendation. Staff finds the requested amendment is consistent with the requirements of the future land use policies FL 0102C and FL 0806A through G. Land Development Code, LDC Section 502C and D requirements have been met. Criteria for rezoning, the review criteria for approval of rezoning application 12A through N is met. Recommendation based on these findings is for approval of R23-008. And this is once again open rural to commercial general. And the Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval of a 10-0 vote. Staff's available for questions.
All right. This time, anyone from the public that would care to speak in favor of or against tab V, come to the podium at this time. You have 3 minutes. Seeing none, that will move us into.
Chairman, I move to close the public hearing for tab V.
All right.
Second.
A motion and a second to close the floor to public discussion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call vote.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Board deliberation. Any discussion? The board members, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, based upon the record evidence and testimony received, I find that there is competent and substantial evidence pursuant to future land use element policy FL.01.02C, FL.08.06A through G, Land Development Code Section 5.02C and D, and rezoning application criteria 12A through N, and therefore my motion is to approve R23-003.
A motion to approve. Do I see a second?
008.
R23-008. I'm sorry, thank you.
Yes, sir. Second, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second to approve tab V.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Hupman.
We'll call the vote.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Tab W, consider R22-013, the rezoning of approximately 206.16 acres at the terminus of Hendricks Road with additional access off Richards Drive, Karen Walk, and Catalina Drive from open rural to residential single-family 2. Application filed by Patriot Ridge LLP's owner and Greg Mattavina, agent, District 2. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to open the floor for public discussion for tab W.
So moved.
A motion, let's see a second.
Second.
A motion and a second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, second from Commissioner Gray.
We can call the vote.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Same ex parte disclosure, includes emails, letters, any other forms of communication. Disclosure should include who the communication was with and the subject of the communication. Commissioner McCullough.
Yes, sir. I apologize, the comment for tab V should have been for tab W. My multiple calls, emails, texts, and call from the applicant were for tab W. If I need to make that clear to the clerk. And then I did receive an email that I included Miss May on just to keep everything in the sunshine.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes, I received emails, phone calls, and everything was received all on my county device.
Commissioner Hutton.
Sir, all emails received were forwarded also to the planning department, so the public knows if you sent me a comment, I also forwarded it, so it would be included in the record here. I was, like Commissioner McCullough, speaking to both. I talked to the applicant, went out to the site, talked to citizens out on the site as well. Everything's captured on my county device.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Martin?
Yes, emails and a phone call, all on my county device.
Same with me. There were several emails and a couple of phone calls, and they were all captured on my county device. Madam Clerk, will you identify the documents submitted into the record, please?
For application R22-013, supplemental staff report, 6 pages, planning and zoning board staff report, 5 pages, draft ordinance, 6 pages, application for rezoning, 24 pages, environmental assessment report, 19 pages, public comments, 32 pages, planning and zoning board PowerPoint presentation, 12 pages, and staff PowerPoint presentation, 15 pages.
Entertain a motion to accept the documents into the record for tab W.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the documents into the record.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Staff presentation for tab W. Welcome back up, Mr. Macbeth.
Thank you, Chair Farmer and Commissioners. So we have tab W, which is rezoning R22-013. This is to consider rezoning for approximately 206.16 acres from open rural to residential single-family 2, or RS2. Applicant owners, Patriot Ridge LLP, agent Greg Mattavina, Commission District 2. So we have our location, land use, and zoning. We're located at the terminus of Hendricks Road with additional access off of Richards Drive, Karen Walk, and Catalina Drive. The land use is low-density residential. That's not changing, that's to remain. With this application, the zoning is proposed to change from open rural to residential single-family 2, or RS2. Permitted uses per Article 9 in RS1 and RS2 zoning districts, single-family dwellings. So the RS2 requirements are going to be found at that bottom, the minimum yard requirements. We're looking at 1/5 acre lots. We're looking at 75 feet of minimum lot width. In comparison, RS1 is going to be 1/4 acre lots at 90 feet lot width. And open rural is going to be 1 acre lots at 100 feet lot width. So right now, open rural to RS2, 100 feet lot width in 1 acre, going down to 75 feet lot width in a minimum 5th acre. And then conditional uses per those zoning districts include home occupations, childcare facilities, parking lots, cemeteries, schools, churches, golf courses, water and sewage treatment plants, mobile homes, mother-in-law dwellings, horses and ponies, duplexes, adult daycare centers, as found in section 28.14 of the Land Development Code for supplementary regulations. The consistency with the rezoning criteria is found in the staff report per section LDC section 502C and D. Once again, we'll go through an abbreviated version of this consistency analysis. For criteria A, our future land use map and comprehensive plan. So we have FL 0102B. This is low density residential future land use map. So the RS2 zoning district is consistent with the existing LDR flume designation. The density would be capped at 2 dwelling units per acre of upland acres and 1 dwelling unit for every 5 acres per wetland acre. So with that low-density residential, the maximum allowed dwelling units on this property is 267. That does not change. But the zoning parameters under open rural and RS2 would be the difference in basically going from 141 single-family homes to the 267. So under FL 0804, this is directly from that future land use policy. The county shall discourage urban sprawl by requiring high-density compact development to occur in areas that are planned to be served by public facilities, providing for sound and cost-efficient public facility planning. So this site is planned to extend public facilities, both water and sewer, to the site. Smaller lot sizes and widths per the RS2 will allow for more compact development. And the project represents infill development, which will be demonstrated by map series on the following page, figure 1 and 2. Under FL 0806, this directs new residential and commercial development in rural and transitioning areas. The areas southward and eastward of the property are rural in nature, and the areas to the north transition to suburban character. The RS2 designation is an appropriate transitional zoning between the PUDs and RS2 uses to the north and the OR, open rural uses, to the south and east. So just taking a step back and looking at the county as a whole, we have this map demonstrating several of our overlay districts, the East Nassau Community Planning Area, where areas of residential development have currently occurred. And in this area in blue, we see the current site. So this is Amelia Concourse coming down, Old Nassauville Road, and then the site, the Hendricks Road extension, which we'll get into greater detail. But this is how it kind of fits in kind of our current plans. Here's a blown-up version where you can see other existing residential developments. We projected a concept plan of 255 units just to see how that density compares to the adjacent lands. So you can see how roughly 255 units compares to the properties to the north and west, to the south and east. So heading into a couple of those densities, we have Hampton Lakes, Amelia Concourse, Timberlake. These are all going to be at your 1/5 to 1/4 acres. As we get towards Harbor Concourse and Concourse Crossing, these start to get below that 5th acre mark. Oak Hill Estates is going to range from 1 acre to 2 acres. Rosewood Meadows, similarly, some are at 1/2 acre, and they go up to 2 acres. Willow Branch, you can also see similar 1 acre lots. Cypress Palm is unique in that we start to get back down to that 1/4 acre to 1/2 acre mark. Cedar Ridge, Mobley Heights also range in 1/2 to 2 acres, with Cedar Ridge being 1 acre. So here to the southeast, as previously stated, we have anywhere from 1 to 2 acres, and then these PUDs and RS2 developments are going to be at that 1/5 to 1/4 acre. On the site, we have, per our capital improvements plan, this Hendricks Road extension. So here's the existing Hendricks Road, and it terminates right at the project site. And then it would continue. The developer would be required to build up to their property line, project that right away up to the property line. And then we'll show you another diagram of how the acquisition of these properties would work for the Hendricks Road extension. Adjacent zoning districts, criteria B. The areas to the north and west have transitioned over time from rural to suburban character. RS2 is found directly north at the Amelia Concourse subdivision. These are PUDs with similar densities and lot requirements to RS2 and RS1. The areas to the south and east are still largely rural and have not transitioned. Area plans, overlay districts, or county plans and programs. So per our future transportation map series 8, this indicates a future trail running through the property from west to east and an extension of Hendricks Road connecting back to Amelia Concourse. Residential development is consistent with these plans, and we'll see that in figures 3 and 4. But in figure 3, you can see number 10 on this map would extend downward into the property. This is called the Amelia Concourse Extension to County Road 107 Trail Project. And then 11 is known as the Hendricks Road Extension to Amelia Concourse Trail Project. And these are found on the Future Transportation Map Series 8. Here's kind of just a blown up version of that extension. So this is the subject property, the end of Hendricks Road. So this red road connection would be the part that the developer would be required to build. The areas in this lighter blue color, Osborne, Nelson, Douglas, and Rockwell are the owners of these properties. These are part of plans for future acquisition. And then in gray, this is county-owned right-of-way. So we've begun off of Old Nassauville, and we have access to the right-of-way continuing to the projected school site. So this is the school site in relation to this property. So does this result in urban sprawl? This is part of contiguous low-density residential zoning district, the low-density residential, which is a maximum of 2 dwelling units per acre. RS2 zoning district would produce smaller lot sizes and higher density or more compact development, residential development than the existing open rural, reducing sprawl. Fire protection, schools, shopping, employment opportunities, and other public facilities are accessible within 4 miles of the site, which is reduced to 2 miles with that extension, and a new school site is located a half mile to the east of the site. Public infrastructure and facilities. So this is a maximum allowed residential homes of 267, and this will impact public facilities. There is a proportionate share mitigation agreement per the application that was submitted to the school district, which accepted the units requested. There's an extension of JEA-operated water and sewer to the site, and per SCW 0303 of our public facilities element, they would be required to connect to sewer. Transportation improvements are evaluated at the time of development review. Substantive code requirements, all new development would be reviewed for consistency with our code requirements at the time of site plan review. Adverse impacts on neighboring lands. The request to rezoning would allow permitted dwelling units to increase from 141 to 267 units, which would result in additional traffic impacts. Adverse impacts on environmental, historical, or cultural significant lands. So there's existing wetlands to the southwest, part of a creek system that leads back to Lofton Creek, existing wetlands to the northeast that lead back to Nassau River. The wetlands are required to be maintained a minimum 25-foot buffer along the perimeter pursuant to Section 3703 of the Land Development Code, and any wetland mitigation shall comply with local, state, and federal requirements. The developer is encouraged to preserve the longleaf pine habitats identified in the environmental assessment, and there are no known areas of historical cultural significance on this site. Heading into a breakdown of the present zoning suitability or unsuitability, where these numbers come from. So surrounding uses include residential homes at mixed lot sizes ranging from 1/5 of an acre to 2 acres. The property can be developed under the current open rural zoning at a density of 1 dwelling unit per acre with a maximum of 141 single-family homes. So we took the 125.73 acres of uplands at the 1 dwelling unit per acre per the zoning, and the 80.43 acres of wetlands per that 1 dwelling unit for every 5 acres. So that's what gets you that 141 number. Versus the low-density residential development would take that 125 and multiply it by over 2. And so the current open rural zoning is compatible with existing residential development west of Old Nassau Road. The rezoning to RS2 will allow for development at a density of 2 dwelling units per acre for a maximum total of 267 single-family homes. And the proposed RS2 zoning is compatible with the existing residential development north of Amelia Concourse and west Hampton Lakes, also known as Amelia Walk, of the site. Just to clarify, I didn't explain that very well. So the low-density residential calculation takes the 125.73, multiplies it by 2, and also considers the wetland acres at the 1 dwelling unit per 5 acre to get to that 267. Land use and development conditions, there's been no substantial changes to land use or development conditions relevant to this property. In terms of public policies in favor of rezoning, so the proposed rezoning is in an opportunity zone identified by the state of Florida. It's under tract 50303 and I believe 50302. Opportunity zones were, well, in this case, this property is under 50303. Opportunity zones were created by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 and are designed to help stimulate investment, economic development, and job creation in economically distressed areas. This was identified by our governor and as a provision of these lands. And so development is encouraged in these areas through tax incentives, and this is depicted in this map series figure 5. And so the property be located in this southeastern area. Fiscally, environmentally sustainable development patterns. This is one of those criteria that applies to larger areas that can sustain characteristics of a mixed-use development. This would not be applicable. Environmental impacts. Development shall meet environmental and drainage standards set forth by St. Johns River Water Management District, Department of Environmental Protection, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And then in regards to criteria N, compact development form, this criteria also applies to larger areas that can sustain characteristics of a mixed-use development. In conclusion, staff finds the requested amendment is consistent with requirements of future land use policies FL 102B, FL 0804, and FL 0806A through G. LDC section 502C and D requirements have been met. The review criteria for approval of a rezoning application 12A through N has been met. And based on these findings, staff recommends approval of application R22-013. The Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval of a 9-1 vote, and we are available for questions.
This time we'll call the public participants to the podium. Time limit will be 3 minutes. Welcome Charles Gass.
Do you swear or affirm testimony in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
If you can state your name and address, sir.
Charles Gass, 95215 Hendricks Road. All right, I'm here just to ask you please to reconsider your rubber stamping this development until you make the road connecting the Hendricks Road to the concourse. Traffic from delivery trucks and dump trucks and labor will be a hazard with the narrow width of Hendricks Road with no sidewalks with a ditch that takes up a lot of the right-of-way, making it very dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists now. Not to mention when construction starts. Traffic on Hendricks Road will be backed up terribly while sewer is being run. Only other way to get to 107 is down Karen Walk to Mobley Heights. We will have to have a red light at Hendricks and 107. Traffic dumped onto 107 from new construction will have to turn left at a very soon-to-be congested intersection at the concourse and 107 from the incredible amount of houses on both sides of 107 at this intersection. And then we have the ridiculous intersection at O'Neill where traffic now gets backed up to well over 20 cars at times and was supposed to be improved 5 years ago. And then we also can't forget the care center on Hendricks Road with the traffic from employees and patients' families. How many ambulance trips are made to the care center each month? Any thoughts of speed restrictions devices on Hendricks? The distance from the entrance of the proposed development on Hendricks to 107 is 1 mile. The distance to the intersection of Hendricks from 107 from the new development going down Karen Walk to Mobley Heights, where they say you have access on Richard and Karen and Catalina. They all had to go down to Mobley Heights, is 3 miles. I don't think this is a very realistic for an alternative route out of the development, nor realistic route to detour traffic while utility work is being done on Hendricks. Anyone who buys property has a right to build on it as zoning allows. They don't have a right to expect that they can have zoning laws changed to allow for what will be a burden to taxpayers who bought their property and built as it was zoned and live here. The developer is going to make a lot more money with a change to the zoning ordinance. The one making a profit should be responsible for putting in the road from his development to the concourse. How far would the road have to be? 1 mile? Is that $1 million? 2? What small percentage this is in the amount to be made with 267 homes being built as opposed to 1 house per acre as zoned now? 25 seconds left. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Gass. Up next will be John Hanna. Welcome.
Do you swear or affirm testimony in this matter is the truth and whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can state your name and address, sir.
John Hanna, 95142 Barbara's Place. When I looked at the staff review of this, one of the sentences that caught my eye was, this review would include an analysis of the need for and justification of this change. There was a lot of justification. There was no need shown anywhere. Just a second ago, we were told that the public policy in favor of this was the opportunity zones. And it said that that was to help stimulate investment, economic development, and job creation. There's no job creation here. This is just more homes. It's not a mixed-use development. So there's no real need here. The only need is for the developer to be able to sell another 126 houses. There's no advantage to this rezoning to the community, off the concourse, in Nassauville, or the county as a whole. Right now, it's zoned, he can build 141 houses. That includes 15 houses that are built on wetlands that, according to his own environmental assessment, are underwater for the majority of the year. Who's really going to build one house for 5 acres of swamp that's wet all year long, or half the year? There's, the last speaker talked about the Hendricks Road extension. The developer is saying that he's going to let us use land on his property to do that. But it's just going to be wetlands. So building a road across that wetlands is going to have an impact on drainage in the area. It's going to be a negative impact. And then he wants tax credits to allow us to use that wetlands to build a road. That'll cause drainage problems for the nearby neighbors. From my review of this, I can find no need that would account for this or any advantage to anyone other than the developer. It's not going to help the county.
Thank you, Mr. Hanna. Up next, David Wilson. Welcome.
All testimony must be sworn. If you wish to say, "On my honor," that's fine, but it will be sworn testimony.
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Do you swear and affirm that you respond to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your honor?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name is David Wilson. My address is 95023 Richard Drive. I live essentially where they're talking about backing up to my backyard and to the west side of my property. I have one primary environmental concern. It's my understanding that the gopher tortoise is a protected species, and on my property, I can count, just on the western side alone, 10 nests of gopher tortoises. Now, I've seen construction take place in this area, and that entails plowing everything down to dirt, burning all the vegetation, laying over grass and pavement, and maybe a bush or two in a yard. That is not environmentally responsible. And if you're talking about worrying about destruction of habitat, I'm fairly certain that these gopher tortoises have nests beyond the boundaries of my property. And this area that they're talking about developing will definitely cause environmental damage to that habitat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Up next, Nick Isabella, welcome. Nick Isabella. All right. Margaret Kirkland. Welcome back.
Do you swear and affirm testimony in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Now you can state your name and address.
My name is Margaret Kirkland. I live at 1377 Plantation Point Drive, and I'm Chair of Conserve Nassau, and speaking on behalf of Conserve Nassau. Okay, thank you. So our concerns basically relate to the loss of tree canopy, to the extent of development in this part of the county, and the potential costs to property owners and the county resulting from declining quality of life and property values, flooding and storm damage, and so on. This is our forest loss over the past 20 years. I think this is not up to date. If we look at the maps that the county appraisers maps, we see a lot more loss in this area. And we need our trees to process our stormwater, and here we have our potential wetlands. County appraisers' maps are very conservative on this, and so you really have to have a professional appraisal of every parcel to determine what is wetlands. But this is the set of parcels, and Lofton Creek, Nassau River, and the Amelia River. All of those waterways will be impacted by storm surge. What happens when you have, in 5 years or 10 years, you have elevated ground level water based on increased rainfall or other events? It's very concerning. Look at the amount of development between US 17 and the river, between SR 200 and the Nassau River. It's incredible. There is no place for wildlife. There is no place for human activity, really. And I zoomed in on this to show that you have here all these parcels that look like they are green space are actually already subdivided. They just, maybe some of them haven't been developed yet. And that is the case with all of these. All of the land in that whole section should be conserved or had conservation easements developed on it. This is a very serious issue, and in terms of the requirements that you have, it is a problem for fiscal and environmental sustainability, among other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kirkland. Up next is Katrina Joyner. Welcome.
Somebody else better do that.
Do you swear or affirm testimony you give this morning is true, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Katrina Joyner. I'm at 95370 Plum Drive. The place has been rezoned. When we first moved here when I was 5, it was 121 Plum Drive East, and that's what I always think of it as. It's in the Willowbrook area, Willowbrook Estates. I wasn't actually going to speak, but so what I have to say is short. There seems to be a lot of statements of no known ecological concerns, no known this, no known this. So I can say with my own 2 eyes, I have seen the endangered white-topped pitcher plant out there, and the hooded pitcher plant, which is under watch and possibly endangered. I have never been able to track down what kind of bat lives out there. My parents' property, which I recently inherited, is 1.5 acres and has been a nature preserve since I was 14 years old. You can get with the National Department and have it declared. So I need to know what's going to happen to those of us who have more than an acre. These zonings look so nice, but there's so much that is just unanswered, and having never faced this before, I just have a lot of questions about the scary unknown. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Joyner. Any other member of the public care to speak in favor of or against tab W? Now's your opportunity. You got 3 minutes. Come on up.
Do you swear or affirm testimony you give this morning is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? If you can state your name and address.
My name is Fred Eichmann. I live at 95134 Gladiolus Place. I'm in the Amelia Concourse subdivision immediately north of this development. I find it interesting that we don't have a subdivision plan, or you don't have a subdivision plan of what the configuration of the lots and any other roads other than how Hendricks Road is extended there. And in the documentation, we've got the 200-plus acres where 80 acres are wetlands, or 39% of the land. And so we get a calculation of how many houses can be built there by subtracting that from the total land area. But if you look at the map, particularly the wetlands map, there's so many wetlands and it's such an irregular configuration. I don't know how you can make a reasonable subdivision plan in there as far as where the roads would go, the configuration of the lots. I don't see how this number of lots could really be, and I'm doing this just by eyeballing what's available, how this number of lots can be reasonably configured in a subdivision within the limitations of the wetlands in there in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw a couple more hands. This is your chance. Anyone else to speak in favor of or against tab W?
I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Do you swear or affirm testimony you give this morning is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name and address.
David Neville, 85325 Champlain Drive.
I just have a couple questions. The first question is, the sewer and the water will be run to this property for these new lots. I was just wondering what the route of that was going to be. Is it going to be down Hendricks Road, or is it going to be down the future road? And how long will that take to get those lines run, and what is the route of that? My second question is, I was doing some research, and the closest I could find is the Nassau County, Florida Transportation Impact Analysis Guideline, which was from December 2019, on if a traffic analysis was done for this development. It says it's required under Part 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs down, a TIA, which is the traffic impact analysis, may also be required in areas where any amount of additional traffic may impact a congested location, which to me, Nassauville Road and the 200 is very congested, or when specific site access issues are of concern, and to me, that's Hendricks Road. So that meets both those criteria to where an impact analysis should be performed. I was just wondering, I haven't seen any analysis on this, and if not, I was wondering why, if it's met the criteria for that. That's it.
Do you swear or affirm testimony in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address, sir.
My name is Billy J. Blanton. I live at 95762 Karen Walk. We lost our aunt here a few years back at the end of Amelia Concourse and Old Nassauville Road at 100+ miles an hour from a young man that was on drugs, decided he wanted to kill himself, and he killed Aunt Nora instead of. So with that being said, this new subdivision that y'all want to put in, that Catalina Drive, is directly across from my house, right where my 6-year-old daughter plays at every day. So I'm gonna go to work biting my nails every day, wondering if somebody's gonna run through there and run over my baby. Okay, the flooding in the area, Karen Walk and Dwight, water don't even run through the culvert pipe. It builds up and runs over the road on the blacktop. Called 100 times. We can't even get nobody out there to fix get our storm system up and working. And they're finna put 200 more homes on top of us. That's just gonna make us flood that much more. Let alone, I was off work for 4 days. I moved Turbo the turtle out of the road off of Karen Walk 6 times. I've lived there for 10 years. Turbo Turtle's been there with us the whole time. Y'all put 276 homes across the street, Turbo will get killed because he don't move that fast because he's old. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else from the public care to speak in favor of or against?
Do you swear or affirm testimony in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name and
Thank you.
address.
Hi, my name is Karen Williams. I live at 95155 Gladiolus Place. This new development will actually back up to my current property on Amelia Concourse. The last year, we have actually had extensive flooding in our backyard. Our home is built up a good 10, 20 feet at an extreme steep slope. Our backyard backs up to a wetland buffer. We have had beavers come into the wetland buffer behind our home and create dams, which have then caused our backyard to become a swamp. Other members have expressed their concerns with flooding. I also expressed my concerns with flooding from my property. And as well as when I walk out my front door, this will literally be 2 doors down from me in my face every day with the development, noise. I really do worry about wildlife as well. People have mentioned gopher turtles, see those every day. Deer. I also saw a wild boar get run over on the concourse about 2 weeks ago. So I really am concerned about this development. I think 140 homes is plenty. We don't need to have any more than that. If people want to buy 1 acre and build their own home, great, go for it. Another concern I have, and people have mentioned this as well, traffic. If you guys don't drive down the concourse down to Old Nassauville to 200, you're missing a fun trip. And also the same thing, when you're trying to go to the concourse.
Not going to hear any more outbursts from the public. And ma'am, if you can be repetitive, I'm going to ask the next speaker to come up because, I mean, the last 2 or 3 speakers have just been repetitive.
Okay,
So
well, we
please
want
go
to
ahead
make sure we
and
get
finish
our
that. Yes,
point
ma'am. Well,
across, sir.
Like I said, we don't want to hear repetition. It was spoken by the attorney that, there's just no need for repetition when we heard you the first time. And like I said, I appreciate the outburst from the public.
Okay. Well, one more thing I will mention, because although people have mentioned traffic concerns, driving over the bridge every day, no one's mentioned driving over the bridge, but driving over the bridge every day, it takes me a good 35, 40 minutes every day just coming from Nassauville. So just imagine this amount of homes and what the bridge capacity is going to be. That bridge is backed up every day. When there's a major accident on 200, it backs up and you're stuck. My children go to school on the island. I live off the island. So when there is a major backup or one small accident, it shuts down the island. So imagine bringing these more homes to this one small condensed area already. So thank you.
Thank you. And like I said, the last 3 or 4 speakers, didn't fill out a card, so I'm just being kind and trying to let everyone come forward and speak. Obviously somebody missed the card table back here in the back, but, that's how we handle all these meetings. You fill out a card and bring it forward. That way we kind of know what we're going to be faced with. So I'd appreciate it, if you guys could, stick to, some new topics if you're going to speak and not be repetitive. Thank you.
Do you swear and affirm testimony in the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Yeah, Paul Muccino, 34032, Lavender Park Drive, Fernandina Beach. Good evening, Commissioners. About 2 months ago, this board denied the rezoning of a parcel of land over a minor road on the basis of about a dozen people that came forward complaining about the offices, the medical offices that were planned for that location, that the amount of traffic that would be created by that being rezoned, and that was a situation that would involve not 24 hours, 7 days a week, but only during the week hours time frame where there would be traffic. And this rezoning, as before you now, 267 homes are being planned to be built on this tract of land. That's about 500 automobiles that will be embedded on the roadway and Old Nassauville and all those roads that certainly cannot be sustained. Not only those roads back there, but the 200 roads cannot sustain any more traffic. We're overwhelming the county roads with this constant rezoning and developing of homes in this community. I sat here listening to the further speeches that were given about the approval of DSAP for the further development in the county and whatnot. At some point in time, folks, you got to put the brakes on this redevelopment. The county cannot sustain it, continue to sustain it. The roadways can't sustain it. If you continue with the allowing of these developers that come in, the county isn't going to benefit. The developers are going to benefit. We're making a lot of money. And you're going to ruin the uniqueness of Nassau County. You're going to ruin the uniqueness of the island. There'll be a point in time where so much traffic is going to come down this road going over to the island that the traffic will be backed up from the bridge to the front door out here. I've seen it happen in other locations, and it's going to happen here. There'll be an invasion of people coming into this county and taking up the facilities that we cannot handle at this point in time. So I urge you to be consistent with your prior ruling on Minor Road and deny this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, come on up.
Do you swear or affirm testimony in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Holly Kelly. I'm at 95478 Plum Loop, and you all received my letters. You know I'm against this. I don't speak well, so bear with me. This new development looks nothing like Nassauville. We are a rural community. We have goats, we have chickens, we have horses. I'd like to know where I'm going to put my horse on 1/5 of an acre. That makes no sense at all. Our roads can't handle it. I was out there measuring roads. We have 20-foot roads at best. If you take a fire engine, I measured those too. You got 10-foot width with the mirrors. Same with construction vehicles. I was out measuring those. So you have construction vehicles going back and forth in and out of the development because that's what they do. Where are they going to go? Are they going to go in the ditches? Are they going to run over the kids? Are they going to take out the mailboxes? Our roads cannot handle it. I also understand there's something to the depth of asphalt, and I know nothing about it, so I really can't comment about it, except that I hope somebody does. I went door to door in Nassauville, and I spoke to at least 100 families. 95% of the people I spoke to said, I came to Nassauville because it's rural. You're going to take that away from us by bringing in suburbia. We don't want suburbia. We moved away from suburbia. Leave Nassauville alone. 1 house per acre. It was purchased as open rural, and it should stay open rural. Listen to your residents. We don't want it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Applicant rebuttal? We got one more? Okay.
I didn't plan to speak, sorry. Do you swear affirm testimony in this matter is the truth?
She said she would pray, but she's going to. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Pam Branson. I live at 95577 Karen Walk. And I just want to know what the plan is for evacuation of this area. Because right now, everything has to go to Old Nassauville Road, onto 200. People from the island, if we get an evacuation order, all the people from the island have to exit that way. And, and then you've got all these other communities that are building up along the way, and everybody has to get on 95. Are we all going to be in a major hurricane on 295, risking our lives because we have to evacuate? I just don't see a plan here, and I don't see the roads to sustain a decent evacuation to add more people to this area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Applicant rebuttal. Welcome.
Do you swear affirm testimony in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Greg Mattavina, 12443 San Jose Boulevard, Jacksonville, Florida. So quite often when I go to other counties, I brag about Nassau County. And the reason I brag about Nassau County is because this is the only county I've ever worked in that plans rather than reacts. You all have plans for the Yulee area. You have overlay plans for State Road 200. And so clearly, there is a plan here. You've got a road that you're going to build from Amelia Concourse down to connect to the dead end of Hendricks Road through the property that we own. That road's also going to go out to 107 and create an alternate transportation route. Clearly, that was done for a reason. You've got a school that you're putting in a half mile to the east of this property. And on top of all that, you got FTMS number 8, which I recently have been educated about, which shows a path that goes, 10-foot path that is going to go right through this property. So clearly, you all have planned on there being homes in this area and perhaps at a certain density. I think I will continue to rely, though, on the staff report. What we're asking for is in accordance with the comprehensive plan. It is consistent with the homes to the north and to the west, and a good transition between her here in the rural area, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay. Final comments from staff?
Thank you, Chairman Farmer. Just two quick comments. One, in relation to property rights for the individual property owners. We're not removing the rights that you have under the open rural zoning. You have the same rights as this developer to request a rezoning. Your open rural zoning that allows for those particular uses that you enjoy on a daily basis aren't endangered by this application. This application only applies to that boundary of land that was identified in those maps. And in just terms of application material, the TIA, or traffic impact analysis, was not required for this rezoning since the comprehensive plan already indicates the low-density residential at the maximum 267 units. It was not required at this time. However, as noted in the staff report, those operational improvements for traffic would be evaluated at the time of site plan review, in which case we would request the TIA, and any improvements identified would need to be made. And then if you would like to reference any of the previous maps or things like that from the presentation, I'm available to do that and answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Commissioner Gray.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Macbeth, please. The proportionate share mitigation agreement with the school board, was it approved and accepted by the Nassau County School Board for the new school, yes or no? Please. In your presentation.
One second. So it's part of their application in their rezoning. And so it was requested for, they were approved for 275 single-family dwellings in that community by the school district.
And the school board accepted and approved?
Correct.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any other commissioner have any questions for Mr. Macbeth?
I did have a quick one. In my research of the property, I came across the previous plan or PUD that was submitted for this property was part of it, but it included 1,000 units. Mr. Macbeth, are you familiar with that previous PUD that was submitted?
Correct. At one point, that also included the Nelson Douglas property.
Right.
But it was a much higher density with multifamily development and townhomes proposed in that development. This one's just for single-family dwellings at a more compact size.
Any other questions from the board to Mr. Macbeth? If none, I'll entertain a motion to close the floor to public discussion for tab W.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Close the floor for public discussion for tab W.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gray, a second from Commissioner Huffman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Huffman,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Board deliberation, how you guys,
Would this be the time?
there is no,
I had mentioned this earlier, Mr. Chairman. I thought it may have been under ex parte communication, but it wasn't. And, I'm not criticizing anybody, but there was a voice of the people submission to the news leader. And a local citizen, she referenced my name in that. The voice of the people is like a letter to the editor, if you're not familiar with the news leader. And so she referenced my name and that I had written a previous letter to the news leader on November 15th, 2023. So I read the news leader religiously, and I get it electronically, so I read that, I believe it was on the 23rd, and so I immediately contacted our public information officer and the county manager to let them know that I had not written the letter that I had been, that this lady claimed that I had written. And so I also reached out to the newsletter editor, Tracy Dishman, and I said, look, I get it if one of your reporters misquotes me or says something there, you can retract that. I said, but how do we handle when a citizen, someone from the general public, makes a mistake and they reference my name to it? Because I started getting phone calls about it. So anyhow, I want to put that out there. Anybody that read the Voice of the People article that I'm talking about, that referenced me, I did, that was an error on the part of the person who submitted that Voice of the People. I did not write a letter or make any submission to the newsletter. I just want to put that out there to clear the air if anyone thinks that I'm one way or the other on this, and that I had already publicly claimed that I was on one side or the other on this. That's just not true.
Any other commissioner have anything to deliberate? If not, I'll entertain a motion one way or the other. Approve or deny tab W.
I do want to make a quick comment, if I can take my nickel back. I appreciate everyone speaking, and you are heard, your emails are read, that these rezonings, these requests for rezonings, there are conditions that we're looking at through future land use element policy, through land development code section, and through rezoning application criteria. And the point of the hearing is to present evidence that would be contradictory to the recommendation of the staff approval that we already received, saying that the applicant has met all those conditions. I listened to everybody, and I did not hear anyone give me a piece of information that refuted the elements we were trying to decide on tonight. So based on that, Mr. Chairman, based on the record of evidence and the testimony received, I find that there is competent and substantial evidence pursuant to the future land use element policy, Florida 0102 Bravo, Florida 0804, Florida 0806 Alpha through Golf, Land Development Code, Section 502C and D, and rezoning application criteria 12A through N, and therefore my motion is to approve R22-013.
I have a motion to approve. Do I see a second? We'll see a second to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, second from Commissioner Gray.
We'll call a vote.
Commissioner McCullough?
No.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
4 ayes, 1 nay. Commissioner McCullough. And the motion passes.
Mr. Farmer, I apologize. I've had my request to speak, and I've been waving my hand. And
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
do have something I would like to read that I
Yeah.
spoke to.
Yeah, I can't, it's not popping up, so you gotta get my attention. so.
Okay, and I tried to say it before, Mr. Hutman, because I do like my reasoning to be on the record. So while it's still fresh, may I give my reasoning, Mr. Farmer?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. When we come up here and we make decisions that have so much citizen engagement, I look at every viewpoint. The landowner's right to develop, the staff's insight and guidance, and the neighbors who will be affected. You know, Mr. Mattavino and I had a good, healthy conversation. I had very good, healthy conversations with the neighbors. And to Mr. Hutman's point, and I even spoke to Ms. May about this, that it is the resident's job, you know, to come up here with evidence. But it's also sometimes, when we look at Nassau County, you know, Mr. Mattavino and I had a in-depth conversation about the property and what each of the houses look like with zoning and what, you know, I spoke to him about 1 acre lots. And when I look at what type of residences I want attracted in Nassau County, you know, sometimes my beliefs are different than staff's beliefs, but they represent the people who elected me. And so when you look at this, are we being good stewards of the earth? Society evolving is good, but evolving doesn't always mean improving. And so if you're looking at job creation, Mr. Hanna had came up and talked about job creation. If you're looking at filling in jobs at the mills and, you know, we want to have this career tech and driven workforce, then we've got to be able to put in, you know, blue collar style families. And you look at what they want to bring in and what we're trying to attract to Nassau County. And I told Mr. Mattavino this, that, you know, it's okay to have mixed use, to have those 1 acres, we have super high density on Nassauville. And so I want to appreciate staff, the developer, and everybody for all of their insight. So thank you.
All right. I'll move us into county manager's business. Mr. Pope.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, could we take a brief recess?
Yes, sir, we were right at the end, but we can, yes, sir.
Well, we do have, I think, quite a bit of discussion that may happen under
Oh,
county
yes,
manager's
sir.
business.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So
we
I'll
did.
give the chance for the gallery to,
Yeah, that'd be fine. We'll take a 5-minute recess.
thank you. Getting pins in that.
County managers, we're moving into county manager's business. Mr. Pope.
Yes, sir. We have two items tonight under my business. The first one is a discussion around my employment contract. For the last 3 years, I've served Nassau County in the role as a county manager, a total of 18 years with Nassau County, serving in various roles from staff planner, up assistant county manager, and then again for the last 3 years, county manager. Over that last 3 years, we've partnered to accomplish a number of things on behalf of the citizens, and more importantly, we've set a foundation for success over the coming decades. As part of the current contract being up for review this past October, my wife and I had a discussion about kind of future plans and being in the community. If it would be the desire of the board, we'd be interested in staying on with the county, continuing to serve Nassau County as the county manager. Over the last couple of months, I've met with each of you a number of times, talked about a path forward that continue our partnership. And so tonight before you is a employment contract amendment that among other things would extend my employment contract out to December 31st of 2027. Tonight's the first opportunity for the five of you to discuss it amongst yourselves and make a decision on how you want to move forward.
Board deliberation?
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Gray.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pope. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is my desire as a county commissioner to continue our relationship with our county manager. I reviewed the amended employment contract that was before us tonight and presented to all of us in our packet. I think Mr. Pope has done an outstanding job. It's evident by his review ratings of being exceptional. And I would hate to see him pursue or even pursue moving to another neighboring county or any place else to go to work. I think it's in the best interest of the taxpaying citizens of this county to this board to accept the amended contract that's been put before us. It's very reasonable. And I want to thank you, sir, for all your hard work and dedication to the citizens of Nassau County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Gray. Any other commissioner?
Yeah, I'd like to chime in.
Sure.
There's no doubt. I mean, if anyone ever questioned county manager's performance or his abilities, I mean, they're just not paying close enough attention to what this guy does for us. I appreciated the working relationship that we've developed over the last 3 years, being the new guy back then, and we didn't know each other at all. And you had just gotten elevated and had just signed a contract that the previous board, not just this one, but when the three of us came on board, had negotiated with you. And even back then, when I was technically I was county commissioner-elect, I'd been elected, but I hadn't been sworn in yet, you extended the courtesy to me to sit down with me, and you didn't have to do that, to sit down with me and go over your contract. And I wasn't easy on you. I was pretty hard on you because young guy, first time county manager, I didn't have any history with you, I didn't really know you, and you acquiesced to everything that I asked you to do. Yeah, even though the board at that time gave you some things back, okay? And I even went on the record and said that I was not in favor of these supermajority to terminate, okay? And, but I'm gonna go on the record tonight and say that I stand by what I said then because you were brand new. But you have so impressed me over the last 3 years that, yeah, I would not want to see a new board turn over and you be a victim of that because they don't appreciate your value the way I do now. So and we talked about this. I've got no problem with that. We went back and forth on a couple of things, and, you've been, I'm sure, I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but, my gut tells me, the feedback they got from you, there was some give and take and on what was important to you. So I know I'm giving you a dissertation now, but one final thing I want to add here, all right? I'm gonna vote to approve this contract as amended. I agree with Commissioner Gray. I hope this is a unanimous vote. I really do, so we can show the county manager, his staff, and the community the confidence that we have in him. But I want to say one other thing, all right? I think we're very lucky that the Fernandina Beach City Manager's job wasn't in the Florida retirement system, okay? And the reason I say that is, he's got 18, almost 20 years invested in the Florida retirement system. I know he says he wants to retire after 30, but we'll see whether that happens or not. But the Fernandina Beach City Manager's job is not in the Florida retirement system. And if it was, I think he would have been tempted to go for it. And I want to lock him in for these next 4 years, right? So that, and I hope that he's not going to be tempted to go anywhere else, because even with this new contract, I think we're getting a really good deal, and it gives him the ability to not have to go through this public forum, every time we evaluate him and have to talk about pay raises and stuff like that. It's already going to be in the contract. So you have my utmost confidence, and I support this amended contract.
Mr. Chairman, can I get my nickel back?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Did I outdo you?
Very, very well spoken, Commissioner Martin. And going through our packet, as we all receive our packets, and neighboring jurisdictions, municipalities close by make a lot more money than our county manager. And I concur with you. I do not want to see him entertain the idea of leaving the taxpayers of Nassau County, because we are getting a great county manager that's dedicated and works hard and provides value to the citizens of Nassau County. I mean, value, in my opinion. I've been working with him for these years, along with Commissioner Martin says. He provides value to us. And I'm going to shut up there, but thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing
I
me to
seen you
speak.
clicking a while ago. Were you trying to get my attention?
Well, I'm just gonna get a little I have those surveyor flags, Mr. Farmer, and I'm just
Yeah.
gonna do a survey flag.
I ain't
and just
lying to
wave
you.
at you, okay?
I ain't lying to you. There's
Okay.
nothing there. There's
Because
nothing
I'm
there.
not being, I don't want to interrupt again.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to come to your defense. All you got to say is, Mr. Chairman.
I know, I just don't want to be rude.
That's all you got to say.
And talk over somebody without being called on.
I got alligator hide and Jesus in my heart, Commissioner, so just let's roll on.
I know that Mr. Pope and I feel like we went back probably for several times and talked for a long time over things that, he and I definitely agreed on, disagreed on, things above and beyond. But I look at this, yes, Mr. Pope, you're such a great value to the county, but I look at this as like that county manager seat. What kind of presidents are, and I told Mr. Pope that, while I serve on this board, Mr. Pope could leave next year and he could find, the grass is greener, you never know what the family. And so I look at this contract as what presidents are we setting as this Board of County Commissioners for that county manager seat? What expectations do we have? What do we want? And so one of the things that I thought, and I'm a year-to-year contract employee, and I told Mr. Pope that, and it's when you sit there with your principal, yes, you've done a great job, you have this great evaluation, but you still sit there on evaluation meeting, and you're still sweating, and you're like, okay, well, it's every year, and I would give anything to have a multi-year contract, and so I think this is relevant to have a multi-year extension contract, because this is the board that's making this, and when it comes up for reelection, it may not be this board, it may be this board, I don't know, but I think that the county manager's seat deserves job security so that they're able to thrive and flourish and do the abilities of their job. And I think that's a good precedence to put forth in the contracts as we go forward, that, they're not at a dictation of a board, that they're able to efficiently and effectively do their job outside of political realms, and then it can be addressed as it moves forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm just going to say that Taco is a tremendous asset to this community. He's a tremendous asset to this board. And I'll be honest with you, he's got the most patient family and the most patient wife probably in the history of government, because
Well, I might have to challenge you on that
Well, I mean,
Mine's pretty patient.
yeah, I mean, it takes a lot because, he's in here way after everybody and here before everybody, and everybody knows it.
That's true.
And so at the end of the day, in my opinion, Nassau County is blessed to have what I consider to be the Tom Brady of Florida government in Taco Pope. And I appreciate the hard work. I appreciate the fact that you answer the phone at 11 o'clock at night or 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I mean, we get calls like that, and people go, man, are you serious? And my girlfriend, she works in government too, so, she's like, I can't believe that you stopped what you were doing, you got up and you went out there and you attended to that call. And I go, look, it's just who we are. It's in the fabric of who we are. And I can tell you, I don't answer phones with these guys. We don't see each other till we pull in the parking lot. But from the comments that I get from the constituents and the taxpayers, those guys are really, really pleased with this group that's behind the dais. And it's all, being led here by the county manager and his staff. And like I said, I'm 100% in favor of this. I think that it's a great deal, and the taxpayers are getting a 24/7 man. And if this were private sector business, I can assure you, you'd be making a whole lot more money for the budget that we run. So I appreciate it. And with that,
Mr. Chairman,
entertain.
did you have something you want to say?
I'm going to be succinct and brief.
Okay.
He is overworked and underpaid, and I'm glad to see this extension for 4 years and to even out the compensation. And we're lucky to have you, Taco, so thanks for your service. Thank you.
Great.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move to approve tab X.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I see a second to approve?
Second?
A motion and a second to approve tab X.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Huffman.
Call vote.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Huffman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes,
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all very much for the vote of confidence, kind words. So moving on to tab Y. Over the last several months, probably a year at this point, we've been in discussions with Mr. Langley and representatives of the Amelia Island Convention and Visitors Bureau. Marshall and his team has done a lot of work with County Attorney's Office, reviewing policies and procedures associated with the Tourist Development Tax District. The County Attorney's Office has set up a series of training events with staff that supports the Tourist Development Tax District. And we're at the point now with the maturation of the community, the Tourist Development Tax District, and the overall program that we really need to start looking at the underlying ordinance and the correlating contracts with your vendors. And so tonight I don't have a specific ask in terms of movement on a particular item, just direction from the board, consensus to give Denise and I and our staff permission to move forward with reviewing them and coming back to you with ideas on how we can kind of move forward from the 1980 ordinance and push us into the next decade, eyeing an expansion westward of the Tourist Development Tax District.
Commissioners, you have anything you'd like to add to that?
Mr. Chairman, basically because I'm chair of the Tourist Development Council, and I've got two teams here. I've got the BOCC team and the county manager and county attorney staffs. I've also got the Amelia Island Tourist Development Council and the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I consider them part of the team too. And so really what we're doing here is we're bringing all of this back and forth not to fruition, but we're bringing the back and forth between the two parts of our team to give them direction to say, okay, this is where we're going to go going forward. Because at this point, they work for at least 3 of the 5 of us. Whatever 3 of the 5 of us give them direction to do, they're going to do. That includes the county attorney too, because a lot of this has to do with the legal reviews that her and her team have to do with purchasing and stuff like that. So anyway, long story short, we're basically giving them direction to work with Gil Langley and the Convention and Visitors Bureau and the TDC and all the people on the team, primarily Mr. Langley and his senior staff, to find the way forward. And this is important because we're officially giving them direction to do that, so we can bring that, that ball across the goal line and get an amended contract with them.
Correct. Any other commissioner have anything like to add to that? I mean, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve tab Y.
Have a motion, do I see a second?
I'll second that. This is, for clarity, the direction, the motion is to bring back recommendations to amend the ordinances. We're going to take a look at those and start working on them. Yep, absolutely, it's time.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Well, a motion and a second to approve tab Y.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Hupman.
You can call the vote.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
It moves us to county attorney's business, and you have an expansion item.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Before you is a settlement agreement. This is a dispute between two parties at the end of O'Neill Scott Road that started back in 2020. We had been maintaining a portion of that dirt road for many years, and we went to file a prescriptive map, which brought us into their dispute. It's been 3 years in the making. The parties have finally come to agreement. Our portion of this has really been to sit back and let those two parties work it out. The court has agreed, and they have agreed, that we do have a 35-foot right-of-way there, which is 15 feet of graded road, 10 feet on either side. In this agreement, we will still have that. What we will have to do is go out and get a survey. That survey cost will be split by the three parties. And then we will file a map, and we will have a prescriptive easement, which is what we tried to do 3 years ago that we got in trouble for. So all I'm asking is that you review and approve this settlement agreement, which will get us on our way to getting a survey and final judgment in this case.
Do you think, have you spoken to either one of these parties since this settlement has came out? Do you think that the Hatfields are happy with the McCoys, or are we going to continue to see this thing continue to be a problem?
It's interesting you say that. It has been a Hatfield-McCoy situation. I have spoken with their attorneys. I would say they're both represented parties, and one party has moved off and plans to sell.
Okay.
So the fact is, we'll get our prescriptive road. Anybody who buys will be buying subject to what's known and filed in the record, so we will not have this issue arise.
Because reading into some of that, I was like, I don't know that this is even going to resolve this. Yeah, right. So, I mean.
These were family,
I understand.
by the way.
Yeah,
But,
I got you. That's usually how it works.
one party is moving off, as I understand it, will sell it. When they do sell, it'll be subject to our easement, and we won't have an issue in the future.
Perfect. Well,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, and if I'm done, that we accept the settlement offer and assume the road.
I have a motion to accept the settlement offer. Do I see a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, second from Commissioner Gray.
We'll call the vote.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, that'll move us into, I'll go to the informational item first before we move into county commissioner items, because I always forget it. Tab Z is the Board of County Commissioners newsletter for October 2023. Ms. Sabrina does a fantastic job. If you guys haven't seen it, go to countyinsider.com. We'll take you there, and you can see all the great things that we have done and are doing in your community. And that'll move us into county commission items. Commissioner McCullough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got a lot of parades, events going on. I know Saturday is the Nassau Historical Society is putting on the Callahan Christmas Parade. Saturday night is the Fernandina Parade. Next, the sequential Saturday is Yuli's Parade in the morning. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of different craft markets, vendor markets. I love December because it's not just about Jesus' birthday, but it just creates like the community involvement. And so I would encourage people to get out. There's so many opportunities to support local, to donate to different, today we had Barnabas, the Empty Bowls, there's fundraisers. There's so many opportunities. It may not be a wrap gift, but acts of service. There's way to donate to the Humane Society. There's so many opportunities for residents over the next month to show acts of love and service that don't have to be wrapped up underneath the tree. So I would just encourage the residents to do so.
Thank you, Commissioner McCullough. Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to thank everyone who came out tonight. We had a lot of work we got done here for the county. The board did a lot of work tonight. I want to thank County Manager Mr. Pope for his willingness to stay on and serve as our county manager here in Nassau County. And congratulations, sir. Congratulations, Mr. Pope. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Gray. Commissioner Hupman.
Thank you, sir. Looking forward to participating in the Callahan Parade this coming Saturday in the morning, so I'll be out there with some of my fellow members here, so I'm excited to get out west again. I just want to quickly comment again on the procedure tonight. Again, appreciate the input. I appreciate people coming up and taking their 3 minutes to give us their thoughts and feelings and positions. And again, reiterate that, these A through N items that are on these rezonings and on these land use issues are the facts and the data that we're trying to deal with when we're processing these. And so I appreciate people to pay attention to those. Let's have conversations about them. Reach out to me. Many people did. I spoke to lots of folks. So I will continue to do so. And I know they may not be popular, but they are the right thing to do in this context. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hupman. Commissioner Martin.
Well, again, I'd like to congratulate County Manager on the new amended contract. I'm not going to, all these nice flowery things we said to him earlier, he doesn't want to hear that all again, so just get back to work. I'm glad you're sticking around. Let's see. Went to, Barnabas had their empty bowl celebration today. If you're not familiar with that, you buy a ticket to go to, it was at the Ritz, it was really nice. It was today at like from 11 to 1, and so you buy a ticket and you get this free bowl it's a ceramic bowl, it's painted, you get to pick your bowl out. And what it's supposed to designate is the folks that are going hungry, because the bowls they have at home are empty, because they can't, it's like pay the electric bill, pay the rent, buy food, whatever, they gotta make a choice. And so, I went there, it's a huge fundraiser put on by Barnabas, and, I heard my colleague, Commissioner Hupman, and his fellow musician, Ray Hetchka, they were playing there in the lobby for us. And so I've heard him called a lot of things, but this time he was called legendary, the legendary Hupman Ray. So they did a good job there. There was over 700 people there, and they haven't even counted the money that was donated when people filled out their envelope. Excuse me. So just from the sponsorship and the sales of tickets, they had raised, I think, $600,000, okay? And it's to go to help, the Barnabas Center feed and assist people that are in need. So if you've ever gone to one of these, it's not that, it's $40 for a ticket. It wasn't that expensive to go. It's a worthwhile cause, and it's an eye-opening experience. They give you there's some videos there of folks that have gone to Barnabas. To one lady, she went there because she saw that she could get some new glasses. She needed glasses, so she heard she could go to Barnabas to get glasses. Well, guess what? She went there and she ended up getting wraparound services for all kinds of things she never would have realized that she could get for not only for her but for her grandchildren. So Barnabas they're the real deal. They do a lot of good work. So it was a great event. I want to thank my colleagues for electing me to be chairman of the Board of County Commissioners for next year. I look forward to working with all of you and our new vice chair, beginning of the year, Commissioner Hupman. And I'm looking forward to 2024. It's going to be a busy year. We got a lot of stuff going on. And last but certainly not least, when Commissioner Farmer talked about, the things you miss out on, when you're in these jobs and you're elected and the things you can't go to. Well, I missed out on my grandson, John Michael's first wrestling match. He's 13 years old, he's in the 8th grade, but my wife sent me a video and he pinned the guy in like 2 minutes. So congrats to my grandson, John Michael, for winning his first ever wrestling match. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin. Just start out and say that today I received a phone call from the HOA president at Timber Creek. They're having a Christmas light competition and they wanted me to come by and be a judge and give away the awards on December 16th. I thought it was really cool that, our HOAs will reach out to the commissioner and ask him to go for that. And that's not the only thing that that, we get involved in. But it's just really cool because you get to meet the residents of that area over there on a little different level. And it's fun, and it's upbeat, and it's just who we are. And just like to congratulate Commissioners Martin and Hutman on being elected to the board as the incoming chairman and vice chairman. If you guys want to cheat off my playbook a little bit, that's cool. I'll be glad to share some of my plays with you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Congratulations to Mr. Pope. Thank you for being the leader that you are. I know that this is uncomfortable. I mean, we've talked about it, and this is not something that Taco even wanted to do tonight in front of the public, but I can assure you that we was going to push him up there on stage one way or another, and we're going to give him the accolades that he deserves. And this Friday night, let's don't forget, at the courthouse, we got our tree lighting. Our Parks and Rec Director, Jay Robertson, has got us all set up there. It's going to be a really nice event Friday night. So if you're not doing anything, come by the courthouse. It's a really, really nice event. Food trucks. It's a great community event. December 16th, also about dark. My good friend Gene Higginbotham is going to do the Kings Ferry Lighted Boat Parade, and we had about 30 boats there last year, and it was really cool. Here we are, kind of in the middle of nowhere, if you will, and got 30 people from the community showed up and lit their boat up. So, if you guys have a boat and you want to come have some fun with us, he's going to have hamburgers and hot dogs for the kids there at the boat ramp. And that just, again, says a lot about who we are as a community. Thanks to the Council on Aging for allowing me to go out and be a part of their turkey celebration there for Thanksgiving. I got to cut the turkey, and myself and several others that were notable from the community, rallied together to put that together. And I tell you, man, the conversation and collaboration was great.